Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 3, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. Now, let's start. The fated match between rivals. Monoma laughed as he poked his head over the divider between the 1A and 1B seating areas. How romantic. I wonder who will kill who. Monoma, stop antagonizing Class A, a female voice called. A head of bright red hair pulled into a short side pony popping up next to him as she chopped the back of his neck, knocking him out before her friendly face peeked over the barrier. Sorry about him, he gets a little passionate. I'm Itsuka Kendo, nice to meet you. We know, the students replied, Tsuyu nodding sagely as she continued, we have one of our own. Oh, right. His name is Midoriya, right? Monoma constantly goes on about him. Kendo laughed, it wouldn't surprise me if he had a crush. Absolutely not. The blonde in her grasp suddenly gasped, shooting upright, Izuku is my closest friend. He's practically my brother. We are bound by our quirks and our souls. Even if I were such ways inclined, I would never be able to risk damaging that bond. That totally sounds kind of gay, my dude, Kaminari laughed, but hey, wouldn't blame you, Midoriya's not bad looking. Hate to interrupt your heart-to-heart, Gyro called, but the finals are starting. The students quickly settled back into their seats as they watched the two figures walk onto the stage. And it's time for the finals. Present MIC screamed through the speakers, are you ready? First, we have the explosion man himself. Destroying his opponents in a spectacle of power. Katsuki Bakugo. And then we have his opponent. The quirk copying extraordinaire. Izuku Midoriya. Get ready for an explosive match, folks. Hey Kaken. You figure out what I was talking about earlier. Izuku called across the arena as the blonde glared at him. Don't you dare go easy on him, you shitnerd, the blonde screamed back. I'm not going to lose to some half-assed bullshit. I'll take that as a yes, the green-haired teen muttered, looking to Midnight as the woman raised her WHP. Ready, she called, start. The two teens glared at each other, standing motionless for a moment before Katsuki took a step forwards, Izuku copying him. The crowd's cheers died down as the two walked slowly towards each other, muttering as they watched. Izuku rolled his shoulders as Katsuki cracked his knuckles, the two stopping just out of arm's reach. I'm going to kick your butt, Katsuki spat. I look forward to it, Izuku chuckled back. Plus the right hook swung towards Izuku's head, the green-haired teen not even blinking as his hand shot up and blocked it, spinning on his heel and yanking the blonde over his shoulder. Katsuki yelled as he was slammed into the concrete, yanking his hand free as he scrambled to his feet, just barely dodging a stomp. The fist met the side of Katsuki's head as Izuku stepped forwards, throwing the blonde to the side. Katsuki gave a guttural yell as he staggered back, before charging forwards again, swinging his arms wildly. Izuku was able to block several of the wild punches, before one slipped through and slammed into his gut, making him cough. Katsuki gave a wild grin as he swung again, landing a devastating punch against the side of Izuku's head, making it snap to the side as the green-haired teen stumbled. The kick caught Katsuki in the side as Izuku staggered, surprising the blonde as he gasped, just barely seeing Izuku charging towards him at the last moment. Hands grabbed the sides of Katsuki's head, digging into his hair as Izuku pulled himself up, his knee rising towards Katsuki's face. The blonde staggered as his head was thrown back, a stream of blood arcing from his nose. A punch slammed into his chest as he tried to recover, knocking the air from his lungs. Ready to take off the kid's gloves, he heard Izuku say as Katsuki shook his head, trying to clear the dizziness. F off, the blonde replied, spitting out a glob of blood as he glared at the other teen. Izuku just grinned as he lowered himself slightly, his stance changing as he slid his feet across the ground. Bakugo yelled as he charged forwards, swinging another right hook as he stared at Izuku. The green-haired teen suddenly seemed to vanish, making Bakugo blink as he felt the hand close on his right wrist, yanking his arm down. In an instant his arm was twisted around behind him, Izuku kicking out the blonde's legs from under him as both toppled forwards. Bakugo screamed as he slammed face first into the ground, Izuku's weight half crushing him as he struggled to get out of the pin. He felt the sweat on his palm gather, the familiar sensation of his quirk building. At its current level, the blast would be one of his biggest, and would almost certainly cook the teen on his back alive. But he couldn't use it. Not after what Izuku had said. He may win the fight, but he'd still end up losing to the quirk stealing F. The hand grabbed the back of his head and slammed his face into the concrete, knocking the thoughts from his mind as he managed to wrench his arm free, grabbing the wrist that was above his head. He yanked, hard enough to pull Izuku off balance, giving him just enough room to shove his legs under him and force himself to his feet, throwing the green-haired teen off his back. Izuku landed heavily on his back as he rolled to the side, dodging the kick, and getting back to his own feet. He darted forwards, changing directions at the last second to slip out of Katsuki's line of sight, bringing his elbow up into the side of the blonde's head. BLD sprayed from the cut that his attack caused, the skin tearing under the massive force of his strike. Izuku spun on the ball of his foot, sweeping his foot under the stunned blonde's feet, throwing them out from under him as he crashed back to the ground. Izuku raised his foot, slamming it down into the small of Katsuki's back, making the teen scream in pain as he tried to force his way back up. Unable to move, Katsuki shot out a hand, grabbing at Izuku's ankle, just barely managing to snatch a hold of it as he yanked, sending the green-haired teen to the ground again. Katsuki roared as he leapt off the ground, jumping on top of Izuku as he began punching madly at his face. The other teen barely able to block the onslaught of punches. The blonde felt Izuku shift under him, blinking just as the legs reached up and wrapped around his neck, yanking his down and slamming his head back into the concrete. Darkness began to creep in on the edges of his vision as he scrambled to free himself, the tight pin cutting off his air supply. With a strangled shout, Katsuki sunk his teeth into Izuku's calf, the green-haired teen crying out in pain as he released the blonde, both staggering to their feet. Katsuki looked horrible, his eyes were unfocused, his blonde hair already matted down with BLD as a steady stream of the red liquid dripped from his temple and nose. Izuku wasn't looking much better, one eye already swelling shut and his nose bent at an odd angle after Katsuki's mad punching onslaught. The two glared at each other, both swaying slightly as they stepped forwards, both lifting their right arms. Katsuki swung the right hook, Izuku copying him. And then the green-haired teen was gone, Katsuki blinking in surprise as his attack missed, making him overextend himself. I win, Katsuki. The words came with a powerful uppercut that slammed into Katsuki's jaw, driving him up into the air, his consciousness fading as darkness wrapped itself around him. The last thing he felt was his back hitting the concrete. The last thing he saw was Izuku standing triumphantly, one arm raised. The last thing he heard was Midnight shouting that Izuku had won. And then he passed out. The crowd was silent as they watched the match, wincing and gasping as the two teens beat each other black and blue, BLD staining the concrete of the arena. One went down, his head slamming into the cement, before he was up again, leaping on top of the other, attacking him wildly. The crowd remained silent as they watched the BLD splash across the floor, the blonde teen biting into his opponent's leg to avoid being choked out. The two staggered away from each other, before they charged again, the green-haired one ducking to the side at the last moment, before driving his fist into the blonde's jaw, throwing him through the air to land heavily on the hard surface of the arena. The crowd remained silent even as the boy stood triumphant, one hand raised in victory after his punch. Several members of the audience shifted uncomfortably as he dropped his fist, simply turning and walking away from his opponent as the BLD pulled beneath the blonde's head. Class 1A sat in silence as they watched Izuku limp off the stage, the BLD from the bite on his calf already soaked through his breathes, leaving a trail of crimson behind him. They stared at the unconscious form of Bakugo as the medic bots rolled out, lifting him onto a stretcher, the white fabric quickly staining red as they rushed off. They watched as 𝐒𝐿 pressed his hands against the side of the arena, the concrete quickly swallowing up the BLD stains, hiding them from sight. Hey! The class jumped as Nito stuck his head over the divider again, a strangely solemn look on his face. No offense, but don't go see Izuku after this, okay? What? But dash. Uraraka started, Nito just shaking his head. I know him well enough to know that he needs to be alone for now, the blonde sighed, looking down at the arena. Even he wouldn't normally go that far. What the hell happened, Izuku? And with that, the first year UA Sports Festival comes to an end, but make sure to stick around for the award ceremony in half an hour, folks. MIC called into the microphone, before hitting the mute button and sliding back from the desk. What the F was that? What do you mean? Aizawa hummed as he stretched, tugging on his capture weapon as he got up from the chair. What the F did we just watch? MIC asked again. That was brutal. We just watched the same thing we do every year. Two children beat the SHT out of each other for our entertainment. You know what I mean. That was different. Hisashi muttered as he dragged his hands down his face. It felt wrong. Shota hummed as he walked to the door, opening it. Maybe it was because they fought without quirks, so we weren't being distracted by the spectacle of it. Maybe, Hisashi sighed, but still, that was fed up. No more than it usually is, Shota sighed as he closed the door behind him. Nedzu frowned. This wasn't something he did often. In fact, he hated doing it, as it usually meant one of his plans had somehow managed to fail. But this frown was different. That fight had been wrong, even the Chimera knew that. As much as he enjoyed toying with humans, watching as they reacted to his plans and making him smile with their antics, he didn't hate them. Even after what they had done to him. He would never do something like that to them. He wouldn't become the people he hated most. And yet, at least to a degree, he had. And it had taken this fight to show him that. Tenya sobbed as he gripped his brother's hand tightly, the words the man had said just before he'd fallen unconscious again ringing in the teen's head. What an interesting fight, the shadowy man chuckled as he watched the screen. It has been quite a while since I last saw something so entertaining. The bespectacled man beside him said, just looked like two children beating each other senseless to me. A pointless act. Exactly, the shadowed man laughed. But a pointless act that may very well shake society to its core. And it was all orchestrated by him. I like this young man, he has so much potential. How are you so sure? The doctor asked, looking up from his work. Because, the man hummed, I can see a little of myself in him. Here. The hospital. Fuyumi Todoroki gasped as her younger brother slipped on his shoes. Yeah, Shoto said flatly, I'm going to visit Mom. But why now? After all this time? The young woman asked, staring at the teen as he walked out the door. I have to ask her something, he said, looking at his hands, about her quirk. About my quirk. Okiko, the two figures shouted as they scrambled down the short hallway in the brunette's apartment. Mom. Dad. She shrieked as the two adults stood up, smiling at her. What are you doing here? We came to see you, her mother said happily, to congratulate our little champion. Oh, you guys really didn't have to. Okiko gasped, wiping the tears from her eyes. Of course we didn't, her father laughed, but we wanted to. Anyway, that was quite the sports festival. There are articles all over the place about it. Especially that last fight. Oh, yeah, Okiko said quietly, looking away. I just hope Izuku-kun is doing okay. Oh, her mother chimed, suddenly slipping an arm around the girl's shoulders, calling him by his given name already. What's that about? And nothing. Okiko squeaked, her face going bright red. I'm just worried about him. Sure you are, her mother laughed. Hey, Nito hummed as he walked through the door of Izuku's bedroom, one hand in his pocket as he looked at his best friend. Hey, Izuku replied as he laid back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. So, you won, Nito continued, though you didn't stick around for the award ceremony. Didn't feel like it, the other teen mumbled, rolling onto his side, facing away from the blonde. I understand, Nito sighed, before pulling something out of his pocket and tossing it onto the bed behind Izuku. Here, you should at least have this. Izuku rolled over slightly, reaching behind his back and grabbing the circular object. He stared blankly at the gold medal, letting out a low sigh as he sat up on his bed. Thanks, Nito, he muttered, setting the medal down on his bedside table, though I hardly deserve it. Bullshit. The shout made Izuku jump slightly, looking at his friend in surprise. You earned that first place, the blonde continued, you beat that but fair and square. Even more so, because neither of you used quirks. Now he has nothing to lord over you at all. But I could have seriously hurt him. Even killed him, Izuku mumbled. I almost wanted to. I was so angry. I didn't even really mean to win. I was going to forfeit, but then and honestly, he kind of deserves that, Nito sighed as he walked over and sat beside Izuku on the bed, wrapping his arm around the green-haired teen's shoulders. With the way he acts, he should never have been allowed into UA to begin with. But he was, so we're both going to make sure he doesn't screw this up for all of us. And maybe show him his place. At the bottom of a dumpster. Izuku chuckled. An on-fire dumpster. Nito grinned. Hey, let's not bring Endeavor into this, Izuku laughed back. I only have enough patience to deal with one egotistical F-head at a time. Oh, there's a story behind that, isn't there? Nito hummed, Izuku cringing slightly. Yeah, but it's not my place to say, Izuku sighed. Wish I could, but none of my business, Nito said, holding up a hand to stop his friend. Are you at least going to tell the teachers? I don't know. They need to know, but I think he should be the one to do it. Izuku paused, looking at Nito. He deserves better than what he's gotten. With a father like that, I can only imagine what he's gone through, the blonde sighed, and he probably had to do it alone. At least we had each other. Have each other? Izuku laughed. You aren't getting rid of me that easily. Damn it, foiled again. Nito laughed as he shoved Izuku away, the other teen trying to wrap his arms around Nito's neck, making a ridiculous kissy face. Inko smiled as she watched the two boys messing around through the crack in the door, turning away and heading to the kitchen to prepare some snacks. Bakugo stared at the ceiling as he lay on his bed, running his fingers gently over his temple, over the small scar on his skin. Whoa! Aren't you Midoriya? The kid who won the sports festival? The voice asked, making Izuku look around, staring at the man with weirdly small eyes. Maybe, Izuku shrugged, smiling slightly as several other people turned to look at him. Oh yeah, you are. Congratulations. Can I have your autograph? The shouts echoed through the packed train as people jostled to try get closer to him. Izuku gave a quiet sigh. The class went quiet as the door slid open, the green-haired teen walking into the room. They watched in awkward silence as he walked to his desk, placing his books down and sitting in his chair. After a moment, he looked around, eyebrow raised, before he let out a loud sigh. I'm better now, thanks, Izuku said clearly, making the class jump. Nito came to see me during the break, and I'm calmed down and all that jazz. Oh, well, that is good to know, Momo said. She stood from her seat. We were all worried that you were going to be sullen. Mopey. Angry. Izuku asked, looking around the room again. Thanks for checking, Momo, but I'm not Kaken. I can handle my emotions well enough. Where is he, by the way? And Ida? They're usually the first ones here. No idea, Gyro shrugged as she sat down. Haven't seen either of them since the sports festival. Ida got a phone call just before the finals, Okako hummed. I was with him in the nurse's office when it happened. It looked like it was serious and then he left. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to make sure my vice rep is all good, Izuku hummed as he leaned back his chair, and that Kaken hasn't actually broken anything important. It was barely a moment before the final warning bell when the door slammed open, both Bakugo and Ida walking in and going to their seats, both making a point of not looking at Izuku, the green-haired teen noticing the small diagonal scar on the blonde's temple. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he looked over at Ida, knowing full well that something was wrong just by the way the boy was sitting. He'd gotten to know him well enough doing class representative activities with him, so he could see the unnatural rigidity in his back. Good morning, Aizawa droned as he walked in a second after the bell finished ringing, glancing over the class, his gaze lingering on Ida, Bakugo and Izuku for a moment before he began the lesson. We have a hero informatics class right now, and a very special one at that. You'll be picking your hero aliases. The class erupted into a cheer, immediately silencing as Aizawa activated his quirk. But first, the man pulled out a remote, clicking a button as a screen descended from the ceiling, the class watching in interest. Usually they're more spread out, but we had some special cases this year, Aizawa sighed, the screen lighting up as the bars and numbers scrolled across the screen, the class gasping at the top 3. Todoroki, 4,123 Bakugo, 3,456 Midoriya, 3,125, well done, Todoroki-san. Momo sighed as she didn't see her name on the list. You too, Midoriya. Thanks, Momo-chan. It's just my father's influence, the two-tone teen muttered. Didn't they get first, second and third backwards, though? Kirishima hummed, looking at the screen. I dunno, Zero shrugged. Todoroki's pretty famous already, and Midoriya did skip the award ceremony. Not to mention Bakugo was all tied up on the podium. FOFF. Bakugo shrieked, glaring at them before he cut himself off. I would have F1IF dash. If what? Kirishima asked, looking at the blonde. Nothing, F off, Bakugo growled, turning away. Anyway, Aizawa sighed. Those of you who didn't get any offers, don't worry, the school will assign you appropriate heroes to intern with. But now it's my turn. The sultry voice said, Midnight walking seductively into the classroom as several of the boys stared lustfully. Remember, the names you choose now may end up being the names you're stuck with for the rest of your careers. So, pick wisely. I know it's a bit of a cop-out to just go with my Quirk's name. Izuku shrugged as he held up the board, but I chose this name years ago because I'm proud of who I am. So, my hero name is the everyone hero, Echo. Good and simple, Midnight hummed as she leant seductively towards Izuku, a good fit for you. Thank you, sensei. Though you should probably back away a bit, Izuku chuckled, surprising the woman. Oh. And why should I do that? She purred, moving closer to the boy, freezing a moment later as she felt a shiver run up her spine, looking out over the class as more than half of them glared at her. You might make the others jealous, Izuku whispered back, quickly walking back to his seat as the heroine coughed slightly, straightening herself out as the glares of the students faded. Okay, Izuku said as he dragged Ida out of the room that the class representatives meeting had just finished in, leaving Momo to delay the other representatives long enough for him to talk with the other boy. What is going on with you? I have no idea what you're talking about, Midoriya, the stiff boy said flatly, making Izuku sigh in frustration. Don't try to bullshit me, Tenya, he growled, making the taller boy startle slightly. I can tell something is bothering you. And I'm not going to let up until you at least talk to someone about it. Someone, the teen asked, a look of surprise on his face. You don't want to know. Oh, I want to know, but the fact that you haven't told me yet tells me that it's something you'd rather not talk about, Izuku replied, his voice going soft, but I know there's something wrong. I can see it in your eyes. I don't want to talk about it with anyone, the teen muttered, looking away. And that's half the problem, Izuku sighed, gently taking hold of Ida's arms. Please, as your friend, let me tell you this. Talking helps. Even if it's just to yourself. Just try, for me, okay? For you? Ida asked, looking back at the gently smiling teen. Very well. I'll try. Thank you, Midoriya. Izuku, call me Izuku. Izuku laughed, patting the taller boy on the shoulder. We're friends, remember? Oi, Kakin. The blonde twitched at the shout, almost spinning on his heel to scream at the shouter, before he stopped himself, starting to walk forwards more quickly. The long shout made Katsuki grind his teeth, the sound audible as he stomped forwards. Katsuki, the name made him stop, the serious tone catching him off guard as he froze, Izuku walking around in front of him, Fing finally. It's not like you to run away. I wasn't Fing running, shitnerd. Katsuki spat as he tried to stomp around Izuku, the green-haired teen stepping back into his path. F off. No, Izuku huffed, crossing his arms over his chest as he glared at Bakugo. It's my job as class representative to make sure that all the students are performing at their peak. And you're all kinds of fed up. Well, more so than usual. I said FFF. The blonde yelled as he shoved Izuku to the side and stormed away, drawing the startled looks of the surrounding students. You're running, Kakin. Izuku called behind him. That's not healthy. You've never been someone to run away from your problems before. So why now? I'm not running. Katsuki yelled. Then where are you going? Izuku asked. Why aren't you able to even look at me? Because UF beat him, the blonde shrieked, spinning around to glare at Izuku. UF beat me without even needing AF quirk. You're just a freak with a freak's quirk and UF beat me without it. You need help, Katsuki, Izuku said softly. I don't need anyone's F help, the blonde shouted. I'm perfectly F fine. Then why are you crying? Izuku asked, Bakugo blinking as he suddenly felt the tears dripping down his cheeks. Seriously, Katsuki. Getting help won't make you weak. It'll help make you stronger. So, just consider it. F off, the teen muttered as he vigorously wiped his eyes, turning away. I don't need your Fing help, Fing Deku. I know, Izuku whispered to himself, but you need someone's old friend. Midoriya, have you chosen your internship yet? Aizawa grumbled as the teen was about to walk out the door of the classroom. Him. No, why? Thinking of taking me on after my stellar performance in the sports festival. The teen chuckled. No, the teacher deadpanned, before holding out a piece of paper. I can't believe I'm doing this, but I have a suggestion for you. Oh. Izuku replied, a look of surprise on his face as he took the piece of paper, looking at the name written on it. Wait, really? You said that you wanted to learn different fighting styles and how to be an underground hero, right? Aizawa asked, Izuku nodding. Well, that hero can teach you all of that. She's almost as experienced as I am. Oh, thank you, sensei. Izuku gasped, bowing low, though I have to ask, what? Aizawa groaned. Ms. Joke. Really? The teen grinned at him, Aizawa immediately beginning to regret his decision. Oh make, the funeral we are gathered here today to mourn the passing of a good friend, Izuku hummed solemnly as he stood at the front of the class, reading from the paper in his hands. They were taken from us so young, after providing such great service, and will be sorely missed. Kirishima fought back tears, Ida sniffing loudly as Shoto just nodded, all looking at the funeral photo set up on the podium beside the green-haired teen. Denki, Hanta, and Mina all had their phones out, recording him as Izuku continued to read through the eulogy, recounting a series of stories as he wiped tears from his eyes. Is this really happening? Okiko whispered to Rikido as the muscular teen looked around in slight confusion, tears collecting in the corners of his eyes. I guess, he replied, the brunette shaking her head as she looked back to the now sobbing Izuku. Oh, left shoe, he wailed beside the photo of the item, how you will be missed. X59. So, who you guys going with? Mina asked as they stood around Izuku's desk. I'm going to Meltman. He has the power to melt. A really good choice for you, Izuku hummed, nodding sagely. He'll be able to teach you how to properly handle your fluids. Right. Mina chuckled, a dusting of purple on her cheeks at the compliment. So, who are you guys going with? I'm going with Gunhead, Okiko said happily. I may want to be a rescue hero, but I think learning how to fight properly will be a good experience. Oh, well I think Nito's also going to him. Izuku laughed, pretty much the same reason. How about you, Ida? Manuel, the boy replied flatly. Isn't he in Hosu? Izuku asked, all three of them flinching when the teen nodded. Everyone in the class had heard the news by now and had given Ida a wide berth after finding out. Izuku hadn't pressed his friend for any more details but had made it abundantly clear that Ida was free to contact him at any time to talk if he wanted to. The teen had seemed appreciative, but Izuku was still worried. Endeavor, the monotone voice said, making the four of them jump as they turned to look at Todoroki, who they hadn't even heard approach them. Oh, hell no. Izuku said, staring at the teen, there is no way in hell I am letting that happen. But I need to learn to use my fire, the red and white-haired teen said softly, Izuku giving him an unimpressed look. What am I to you? A joke. The green-haired teen sighed, all he's going to teach you is burn everything, then bad guy is bye-bye. You'd gain more from learning about paperwork than you would learning anything from him. Seriously, go to someone else, for your own health as well as mine. But then who? Todoroki asked, looking at Izuku strangely. Manuel, Izuku said plainly, he's well known for having immaculate paperwork. Oh, the heterochromatic teen said, okay. Wait, Ida said, looking between Izuku and Shoto as they spoke, but, I look forward to working with you, 𝐿𝐿 suddenly said, holding out his hand to 𝐸𝐸, the teen taking it automatically and shaking. Likewise. Everyone have their costume cases. 𝐈𝐴𝐽 grumbled as he looked over the class, the students all holding up the silver suitcases. Good. Make sure to be on your best behavior. We don't need you shaming UA. Yes, sensei, the class called as they began to separate to find their platforms. Hey, 𝐿𝐿. Tenya. Izuku called as he ran up to the two teens, you guys going to be okay over there in Hosu? Just remember, I'm class rep, so if you have any problems, call or text me. Yes, I'm sure we'll be fine. 𝐿𝐿 nodded, 𝐸𝐸 tensing slightly as he turned. We'll be fine, Midizuku, the blue-haired teen said calmly, a soft smile on his face as he looked down at his friend, Izuku smiling back. Come on, Todoroki-san, we mustn't be late for our train. Right, the two-toned boy said, pausing when Izuku grabbed his arm, pulling him back slightly and whispering in his ear, oh. Okay. Thanks, 𝐿𝐿. Izuku grinned as he released him. And don't forget, call me if you have any problems. That goes for the rest of you as well. FOFF-DQ. Alright, Izuku said as he stood outside the gates of Ketsubatsu Academy, drawing a number of strange looks from the students. This is totally not awkward. Hey, what's up there, buddy? A voice called, Izuku turning to see a young man with curly black hair much like his own approaching him, a friendly smile on his face. Can I help you with something? Yeah, actually, Izuku smiled back. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and I'm interning with one of the heroes that teach here. Hey, I thought I recognized you. A girl with blonde hair held up in two short spiky pigtails gasped, you're the kid that won the first year UA Sports Festival. That I am, Izuku laughed, though you shouldn't slide my ego like that. I know someone with a big enough head, and I don't want to turn out like him. I'd get stuck in doorways. Ha ha ha. That's hilarious. The older voice laughed, the three students turning to look at the woman standing just beside them. You have a good sense of humor, kid. Midoriya-kun, right? That would be me. Izuku nodded, holding out a hand to shake, the woman accepting with a grin. Thank you for having me. Of course, when 𝐿𝐿 called, I could not. Fukukado laughed, I'll get him to marry me one of these days. Well, I'm rooting for you. Izuku laughed along, he needs someone fun in his life to balance him out, and present Missy just isn't enough. Yeah. You get it. The woman grinned, now, how about we head inside? I still have some teaching duties to take care of before I'm done. For the day. You don't mind, do you? Not at all. Izuku grinned back, following as she walked away, before glancing back at the dark-haired boy that had approached him. Oh yeah, and fake smiles may work for civilians, but you should really practice having them reach your eyes. The boy started, looking after the teen as his soft smile twisted slightly, a wicked grin on his lips. Oh, I think I'm going to like this kid. Well, Manuel said as he looked at his two interns, both standing rigidly in front of him. So, why'd you choose to intern with me? If you don't mind me asking. I wish to learn about the simpler types of heroics, 𝐸𝐸 said, Manuel spotting something in his eyes that told the pro that that wasn't the whole truth. Start from the ground up, if you will. Oh, okay, Manuel nodded, turning to the other student, and you, Todoroki-san. Paperwork. Pardon. Manuel muttered, slightly taken aback, you want to what? I want to learn about paperwork, 𝐿𝐿 repeated, staring blankly at the slightly sweating man. Oh, well, that's good. Manuel chuckled slightly, rubbing the back of his head. You'd be surprised just how much paperwork is involved in professional heroics. Though most heroes prefer to push it off onto their sidekicks or other staff. 𝐿𝐿 nodded, recalling one of the times his father had forced him to come with to his agency, the man barely paying attention as he signed a bunch of reports that other people had written for him, grumbling the whole time. I understand, the teen said, when do we start? Okay, so a heads up, Izuku said as the two of them walked through the halls, drawing glances as the other students stared at his uniform. I am the class rep, and I did tell everyone they could call me if they had any problems. How responsible. Ms. Joke chuckled, well, as long as it doesn't affect your training, I have no problem with that. Also, I think one of my classmates is going to try hunt down the hero killer, Stain. 𝐼 stopped dead as he spoke, staring at him in shock as Izuku raised an eyebrow. His name is Tensei Ida is his older brother. Oh, the woman hummed, yeah, I heard about that. Nasty stuff. But how can you be so sure? He specifically chose to intern with someone in Hosu, Izuku said as they started walking again. I managed to get another classmate to go with him, but I'm still worried. If something big happens in Hosu, how quickly would we be able to get there? Here. Well, if we took the Rafflecopter, 𝐼 mumbled, pressing a finger to her chin, like 20 minutes. 25 tops. Awesome, I already have a tracker on my friend's phone, so we should be able to find him easily, Izuku hummed, making 𝐼 look at him in shock. You're tracking your friend's phone? She asked, do you have his consent? 'Cause that's borderline illegal, kid. I'm planning on being an underground hero, Ms. Joke, Izuku said seriously. I need to be prepared for everything. Even if it means that I have to bend the law. The woman said as she led him into the teacher's lounge. Well then, seems you already know the first rule of underground heroics. Good, we can get straight onto the practical stuff. Endeavor stared at the paper in front of him, his eyes wide with shock. He wanted to rage. To shout and scream and burn something. He wanted to get angry, but he was just too stunned. His son, his own flesh and blood, who had finally broken through that childish stubborn phase, had rejected his offer of an internship. And not only that, he was going to some nobody hero in Hosu. Who the hell even was this manual? And why had his son, his protege, his masterpiece chosen him? Shoto, he growled, the paper crinkling up on his desk, before bursting into flame. Shoto. Okay, Ms. Joke said as she dusted off her hands, the two of them on the Ketsubatsu sports field. At least you know how to take a hit and fall. Yeah, I learnt a whole lot about that from Aizawa-sensei when he was helping me and Nito train for the sports festival, Izuku muttered as he sat up from the ground, wiping the dirt from the back of his hero costume. He basically spent most of the time throwing us around, though. Nito. Oh, the other kid with a copy quirk, right? 𝐼 asked, Izuku grinning as he nodded. Yep, he's my best friend, and we've been planning to be underground heroes since we were kids, Izuku said excitedly, 𝐼 nodding as she led him towards a gym building. He's currently interning with Gunhead, learning martial arts. Hey, good to know. I have a quick question for you, kid. Ms. Joke chuckled as they walked in, Izuku blinking as he looked around the large room, a number of padded boxes and constructions filling the space. Do you know Park Hour? So, I write up nice reports on how much help I was at catching villains, Gunhead said as he led Okiko and Nito through the streets, and once the specialty organization has done its little examination, they put money in my bank account, okay? Of course, sensei, Nito hummed, though when are we going to start training? Oh, eager, are you? Gunhead chuckled, placing a hand over his mouth. Well, we can get the two of you practicing drills as soon as we get back from our little patrol, okay? He's so cute, the two students thought as one as they stared at the muscular man in front of them. Oh, Izuku muttered as he fell onto his back, the padded floor doing little to help the numerous bruises that already covered his body. Not bad, kiddo, 𝐼 laughed as she walked over to help him up. You're picking this up really fast. It took me a couple of weeks to even figure out how to roll properly. Well, I have a great teacher. Izuku smiled back as he accepted the hand, though I just can't seem to get the wall climb right yet. You'll get it in time, kiddo. 𝐼 chuckled, handing him a bottle of water. For now, let's have you rest, then we can go on patrol tonight. I'll show you where all the seedy places are. Oh, so you really are an underground hero, Izuku hummed, nodding in approval. Most people wouldn't think so because of your aesthetic, but I guess you can't judge a book by its cover. Nope. 𝐼 laughed, before reaching out and petting Izuku on the head. You're a real good kid, you know. Good head on your shoulders, a fast mouth that you know when to keep shut, and charisma in spades. Are you sure you want to be an underground hero? Yeah, Izuku hummed, I'm sure. It's been Nito's and my dream since we were small, so I'm not going to disappoint him. And if someone like you can be an underground pro, then so can I. Gee, thanks kiddo. 𝐼 laughed, rubbing his head a little harder as they both laughed. Well, I think you'll make a great hero no matter the path you choose. You're welcome. Izuku laughed, looking at the woman, and thanks, Fukukado-sensei. Bakugo growled through the GG as Best Jeanist combed his wild hair, pouring more and more hair product into it until his new hairstyle finally started to take shape. This is the place, Ms. Joke said happily as they arrived outside the seedy-looking dive bar. Come on. Let's go in. Am I even allowed in there? Izuku asked, glancing down at his phone and the numerous messages he'd received since earlier, mostly from when his classmates had finished for the day. He, on the other hand, was only just starting. I mean, it is a bar, right? Or, where's that adventurous spirit you had earlier? Ms. Joke chuckled. Don't worry, we're here on official business, so you won't get in trouble. As long as you don't try to drink anything. Right? Izuku muttered as he followed her in, his eyes having to adjust to the gloomy interior, the smell of stale alcohol and sweat hitting his nose like a punch. Oh, gross. You'll have to learn to deal with this and worse, kiddo, the woman hummed quietly. Now, watch a pro at work. Izuku watched as Ms. Joke walked confidently over to the bar, pulling out his notepad and scribbling down a few things as he followed close behind her. Hey, handsome, she said to the bartender, a man with a mutation quirk that made his head look like a tin can. What's on the specials board tonight? Ms. Joke, the man spoke in a deep voice, nodding to her. Always a pleasure. Though I have to ask, what's with the kid? He's my intern for the week, I laughed, drawing the attention of a few of the patrons, all looking at Izuku as the teen tried to ignore them. Good kid. Won the UA Sports Festival. The bartender hummed, before sliding a glass over the counter. There's not much tonight, but what there is could be pretty big. Good to know, Ms. Joke said as she picked up the piece of paper that was in the glass, slipping it into her pocket before she turned to leave. You a pro, the voice slurred as the two of them moved to leave. Yep, Ms. Joke, at your service. 𝐒𝐽 said with a friendly smile, though Izuku could see the steel in her eyes as she turned to face the massive man that loomed over them, his breath stinking of cheap alcohol. Why the F are you in a place like this? The man asked, swaying on his feet. Your type should just F off. Hey, big guy. Ms. Joke said happily, let's not go overboard here. Let's all be friends. Friends. The man laughed, leaning down close to Emi's face, Izuku watching as she smiled through the foul-smelling torrent that was his breath. Yeah, we can be friends. My PP with your CU dash. The fist slammed into his jaw, throwing the man up so his head slammed into the ceiling, going straight through the thin wood. A moment later, he toppled over, falling flat on his back as he left a gaping hole in the roof. Ms. Joke just spun on her heel and walked out, Izuku following close behind. You see, the pro said suddenly, sometimes you get folks like that. Unfortunately, the only way you can get through to them most of the time is through the common language. Violence. Izuku just nodded as Ms. Joke turned and gave him a winning smile, looking down at the thick gloves on her hands. He knew full well that they had extra padding and built-in brass knuckles to help enhance the force of her punches while protecting her hands. But he hadn't realized just how effective they could be. Maybe I should add some knuckle dusters to my equipment, he thought, just in case. You like him, don't you? Who? Okako stuttered as she sat beside her fellow intern in the cafeteria of Gunhead's agency. Izuku, Nito grinned as she turned bright red, shaking her head, trying to deny it. Oh, don't worry, everyone likes Izuku eventually. He's just like that. Oh, the girl mumbled as she looked back down at her food. Want to hear some embarrassing stories from when we were kids? Yes. Izuku yawned as he fell onto the bed in the spare room of Emi's apartment, too tired to want to take his costume off and shower, even knowing that he probably should. Sorry that I don't have a proper agency, kiddo, Emi laughed from the door, rubbing her own eyes, but hey, that was a good patrol. We managed to catch a couple of purse snatchers and stop a mugging. You say that like it's normal to see that much crime in one night, Izuku mumbled as he pulled himself up off the soft bed, yanking his shirt over his head. Well, tonight was a little busy, but yeah. Most petty crime happens at night, Emi shrugged, though the looks on the faces of those guys when you used their quirks was priceless. Thanks, Izuku yawned again, dragging his feet as he headed into the bathroom. Now I know why Aizawa-sensei is always napping. Ha ha ha. He's still sleeping in the ratty old yellow sleeping bag. 𝐼 asked as Izuku closed the door, the teen stripping down as they continued their conversation through the wooden barrier. Yeah, Izuku called, though I think he got a new one recently. Probably from present MIC. Oh yeah, Hisashi would totally force him to get a new one. Hey, why do you keep asking Aizawa-sensei to marry you? Izuku asked as he inspected the numerous bruises he'd earned that day, most already turning a deep purple. Not that you have to answer. I'm just curious. Oh, Shota and I go way back. 𝐼 laughed as she sat beside the door. We both had agencies near each other when we first started out. And he was such a misery guts that I just had to try cheering him up, you know. Yeah, Izuku hummed. Any idea why he's like that all the time? Yeah, 𝐼 sighed, making Izuku look at the door in interest, though it's not my place to say. How's your friend, by the way? The one that wants to hunt down the hero killer. He's been in one place in the manual agency for around 6 hours now, Izuku replied, checking his phone quickly, so he's probably asleep. They went on a patrol earlier today, then spent the afternoon moving around the agency. Probably learning about paperwork. Paperwork? 𝐼 snorted, why paperwork? I may have convinced Shoto Todoroki that he'd get more experience from learning about paperwork than he would interning for his dad, Izuku replied, earning a loud laugh from 𝐼, who quickly started breathing as she tried to catch her breath. I also asked him to watch over tenure for me. Oh my gods. 𝐼 gasped, Endeavor must be cessed. Yeah, probably, Izuku chuckled as he turned on the shower, but F him. He abused Shoto, so he's a flaming piece of SHT. Whoa, what? 𝐼 called, Izuku flinching as he realized what he said. Endeavor abused his kid. Why do you think Shoto wasn't using his fire until his fight with me? Izuku asked, and can you not mention it to anyone? I don't want it to get out and mess with him just as he's starting to heal. 𝐼 suddenly flung open the bathroom door, startling Izuku as she stepped forwards and wrapped her arms around the teen, who'd barely managed to grab a towel to hide himself. You're going to be one of the best of us, kiddo. 𝐼 said happily, wiping a tear from her eye. You're already well on your way. Thanks, Ms. Joke, Izuku said, letting the woman hug him a little longer, though you should probably let go before I have to lodge a complaint. Call me 𝐼, kiddo. The woman laughed as she stepped back, and don't joke about that stuff. Sure thing, 𝐼, Izuku replied, and I wasn't. How are you holding up? Ida jumped at the question, turning to look at Todoroki as the boy stared blankly back at him. I am fine, Todoroki-san, Ida replied as he went back to polishing his helmet. What prompted the question? Midoriya wanted to know, Shoto said, holding up his phone. He said you haven't been replying to his messages. Ah, I hadn't realized. Ida said stiffly, giving a slight smile. I will respond as soon as I'm done checking my costume. You're lying. Ida froze as Shoto spoke, turning slowly to the other boy and staring at him. What are you saying, Todoroki-san? The blue-haired teen asked slowly. You're lying about being okay, Shoto continued. I may not be good with people, but I can tell. I've watched you, you're too stiff. And what do you want me to say? Ida growled as he began putting his helmet away, glancing over his shoulder at the other teen. I don't know, Shoto shrugged. Like I said, I'm not good with people. But Midoriya is, so maybe you should call him. Why are the two of you so determined to have me talk about this? Ida growled, turning to face the two-tone teen as he looked down, his face covered in shadow. You don't know what I'm going through. You can't even begin to understand what I'm going through. I met my mother for the first time in 8 years last week. What? Ida said, staring at Shoto as he lifted his hand to the scar on his face. She gave me this scar, because my left side looked too much like my father, he said slowly, letting out a long sigh. I was scared to go see her after they put her in hospital. I was worried that she wouldn't love me anymore. What does this have to do with me? Ida asked. I'm sharing part of my backstory, Shoto replied. Then you'll tell me something about yourself. That's what Midoriya said. Ida snorted, unable to control himself as he began to laugh. his legs buckling under him as he fell to the floor, chuckling loudly. The laughs quickly deepened, turning into a strangled sob as the boy curled in on himself, clutching his knees to his chest as Shoto got up and awkwardly patted him on the shoulder. "Do you want to call Midoriya?" the heterochromatic teen asked. "And not yet," Ida sniffed. "I don't want to affect his internship." "All right." I cried as Izuku stood victoriously atop the wall. "You managed it, Green Bean." "Yeah, I did." Izuku cheered as he looked over the large obstacle course he'd just run, ending in a wall climb that he just barely scrambled up. Woo. "A little more practice, and I'll have this all down." "Hey, it's only the third day of your internship," I laughed. "Slow down or I'll run out of things to teach you." "Not going to happen." Izuku laughed. "Here." "Oh, Fukukada-sensei, you were in here," the students called as they entered, Izuku recognizing the two that he'd met on the first day. "We were hoping to do some practice in here." "Sure thing. Yo, Tatami. Are Shikui and Itajiro going to be joining you later?" the woman asked as Izuku hopped down from the tall wall, inspecting the older boy closely. "Yeah," Yo said with a grin, before his eyes darted to Izuku. "Hey, it's the intern." "Hey, it's the vibrations guy," Izuku said as he threw up finger guns at the other teen, Yo giving him a strange look. "And no, I didn't tell me." "Oh, then how?" the boy asked, giving a friendly smile to Izuku. "I'll tell you when you drop the act, buddy," Izuku replied, his voice going flat as he stared at Yo. "I don't like liars, and you're particularly bad at it." "What? I thought I had it down," the older teen sighed, his smile twisting into a wicked smirk as he looked back at Izuku. "Well, that, or you're pretty observant at least." "You don't know the half of it," Izuku laughed. "I'm guessing the people with the contact-hardening quirk and direction-changing quirk are your friends." They're about to open the door. Yo actually jumped as the door opened, turning to stare at the other two students in surprise, before looking back at Izuku. "You have a sensory quirk," Yo said, "or, at least a sensory aspect to your quirk. Ding ding ding, give the man a prize." Izuku laughed as he walked past the older boy. "Congratulations, you guessed one of my secrets. I wonder if you can get the rest before the provisional license exams." Yo stood silently as Izuku exited, Ms. Joke following behind him. The teen stood for a moment after they left, before he let a loud laugh echo around the room, his twisted grin growing wider as he laughed. "Oh," Yo chuckled, "I really like that kid." "Conviction," the pale-haired man growled as he swiped at the lanky man on top of him, the murderer jumping back just in time. "I don't have anything as grand as that. If you want what drives me, then I'd say it's All Might." Shigaraki staggered to his feet, a cruel grin behind the hand on his face, shaking the last of the rust that had been a knife off his hand. "I want to crush that piece of garbage and the society that worships him," the man growled, "crush them into dust." Stain muttered, staring back at the youth. "So you do have the seed of a conviction in you. Our goals may be the furthest thing from each other. But destroying the status quo, that is an ambition we share in common." "Ambition, conviction," Shigaraki spat. "You keep talking about that SHT. Who cares? Kurogiri, get rid of him." "I care," Stain growled, eyeing the man again. "For now, I'll watch. To see what that twisted seed of conviction turns into. And when the time comes, I'll take care of you." "Take care of me?" Shigaraki huffed. "Do we really want a psycho like this in our party?" "He'll add some much-needed firepower," the mist-like villain said. "I'd say our negotiations were successful." "Then send me back to Hosu," Stain growled, liking his pockmarked tongue over his chapped lips. "I still have business there." "Hey kiddo, want to go on patrol in Hosu today?" "What? Can we?" Izuku asked as he looked at Ms. Joke in shock, sweat dripping up his face. "Yeah, you've been checking your phone obsessively for the past few days. It's not healthy," the woman said, "so I called Manuel and warned him that one of his interns was going to do something dumb. Apparently, he already had an idea that it was going to happen." "He did," Izuku muttered, before shaking his head. "Of course he would, he's a hero. He would be able to figure out that Tenya went to him to try find the hero killer." "Yep, so I called in a favor," Ms. Joke replied. "We're going to fly over there this evening, do an aerial patrol of the area." "Wait, really?" Why? Izuku gasped as he lifted himself up again, hanging upside down from the bar by his knees. Isn't that too much? Helicopter fuel must be expensive. Oh, it is, but I was going to do it anyway. Ms. Joke laughed. I told Shota I would give you the full hero experience, and I'm going to. We're just changing the order around a little. Awesome. Izuku breathed as he finished the exercise, dropping off the bar and flipping himself over. I'm going to go have a nap now so I'm not tired for tonight. Is that all right? Sure thing, kiddo. Just don't sleep too long, you'll mess up your sleep patterns. Sure thing, Mom. Izuku laughed as he walked out of the room. The man smiled as he watched the small blip on the screen, moving across the map as it headed towards Hosu. Another day of patrolling, sorry it couldn't be more exciting. Manuel chuckled as he led the two interns through the streets, the evening sky slowly darkening. No, it's better this way, Ida muttered as he looked around. Tenya, Manuel said quietly, drawing the two boys' attention, I know why you're really here. I mean, I had my suspicions, but they were confirmed this morning. What are you saying, Manuel? Ida tensed, glancing between Shoto and the pro. Just that, you shouldn't let yourself be motivated by personal grudges, Manuel answered, before giving the teen a nervous smile. Not that I'm saying the hero killer should get off scot-free. It's just that, well, that's not what heroes do, you know. I understand, Manuel, Ida replied, bowing slightly. Thank you for the lesson. Not a problem. It's why I'm here. The man chuckled, to help teach you guys. I have learned a lot, Shoto nodded. I had no idea how hard paperwork could be. But it is fulfilling to get it finished. Oh, tell me about it. Manuel laughed. I was buried in the stuff when I first started as a sidekick. I swore I'd never dump my paperwork on my staff when I got my own agency. Ida watched as the two chatted, his fist clenched as he thought over Manuel's words. Even if they made sense, the pain inside him wasn't going anywhere. And he was sure it wouldn't until he knew that the hero killer had been brought to justice. However, it happened. Overhead, a brightly colored helicopter flew through the air. So, this is Hosu, Shigaraki growled as they walked out of the portal on top of the water tank, livelier than I expected. I will reform this town, Stain cackled, liking his lips as he grinned, but to do that more sacrifices are needed. Sacrifices? Shigaraki muttered, so you're going after more heroes. Ah, so you do understand, Stain hummed, glancing back at him. Yes. The title of hero is one reserved for those who perform great feats. There are too many that are simply money worshippers, undeserving of the title. Wado, Shigaraki hissed as Stain leapt off the water tower, dropping down to the roof below. For all his high and mighty talk, he's still only going after lesser heroes. It's almost cute. Well, Kurogiri hummed, the areas where the hero killer has been active have seen a drop in crime rates. Though that's mostly attributed to a rise in hero awareness. Hey, hero killer. Shigaraki chuckled, more like hero breeder at the rate he's going. Whatever, it sizz me off. How many Nomu did Sensei say we could have? He allowed us 4. The warp gate villain hummed, the dark portal opening behind him as the massive figures stepped out, though he did say that they were far weaker than the one from the USJ. That's fine, Shigaraki cackled, I don't need them to kill all. Might just cause destruction. Now, let's see who can make the bigger impact, Stain. Alert all the heroes. Now. Izuku shouted as he felt the familiar Quirk pulse into existence, 2 more joining it a moment later. About 800 meters that way. 3 individuals, 2 from the USJ incident. AD, Ms. Joke said as she swayed the radio to wide broadcast. This is Ms. Joke, broadcasting on all channels. We have suspected villain activity at the following coordinates. Izuku retched a moment later, making Ms. Joke look at him in concern. Nomu. The thing from the USJ, there are 4, Izuku gasped as he choked. The concentration of torn-up quirks making him feel sick even at this distance. Can't tell their quirks, warn them, they're super strong, and have multiple quirks. Multiple? Ms. Joke gasped, before talking back into her headset. Multiple bogies, warning, they are highly dangerous, believed to have multiple quirks each. Approach and engage with caution. Get me to Tenya, 𝐒𝐫𝐽 breathed as he managed to calm himself, holding out his phone so the pro could follow the tracking app. I think the one that's moving away from them might be Stain. Tenya blinked as he saw the shadow move in the alleyway, the sounds of explosions and screams echoing around him as he stared at the dark figure. Tenya! Shoto! Stay close to me! Manuel shouted, Ida already stepping towards the alley. His foot caught, the teen blinking as he looked down at his frozen leg, head shooting up to stare at Todoroki in betrayal. What are you doing? He shouted, trying to yank his leg free. I could ask you the same thing, Shoto replied in his monotone voice. I saw him. I have to go after him. Tenya screamed back, yanking his leg free just as a wall of ice shot up in front of him, blocking his path. Let me go after him. Who? Manuel shouted as he rushed over to the two, grabbing Ida by the arm. Who are you talking about, Tenya? Stain. I saw him. Ida growled, trying to pull free. I have to avenge my brother. No, Shoto replied, grabbing Ida's other arm. Midoriya told me that I had to stop you if you tried to go without him. What? Without him? Ida said slowly as he stared at the two-toned boy in confusion. What do you mean dash? He was cut off as the helicopter swung low, bombarding them with wind, all three looking up in surprise as the rope fell out of the open door. A moment later, a figure, dressed in a simple green and black jacket, with dark green cargo briefs tucked into bright red combat boots, slid down easily. The figure hit the ground, rolling as they popped up in front of the three, a broad smile on their face. Midoriya! Ida gasped, staring at the other teen. Where did you come from? Just the best internship ever. Izuku chuckled, even as the other two could see the queasy look in his eyes. Kick his butt, green bean. A woman in the garishly painted helicopter shouted over the vehicle's speaker system, Izuku waving back with a shout. You got it, Mom, he laughed, before turning back to them. Okay, I know exactly where Stain is, let's go. Go. Go where? Manuel asked, staring at the teen in shock. To kick Stain's butt. And we better hurry, he's with someone right now. Izuku replied. Stain. Manuel sighed, you know what, fine. Go. Fight the hero killer for all I care, you won't actually find him. This is all so crazy. Awesome! Izuku shouted, grabbing both Ida and Todoroki by the arms and pulling them towards the alley. Let's move. Chizome Akaguro growled as he heard another explosion, glancing to the side as he held up his prey. So loud, he grumbled, I'll take care of him later, but first, he turned back to the hero he had pinned against the wall, the man hanging limp as Chizome's quirk worked its magic. I'll do what I came here to dash. He was cut off as the frost gathered around the hero's head, distracting him for a moment, before the dark blue icicles shot forwards, almost skewering him. He leapt back, slashing at the ice, his sword barely chipping it as it bounced off. He spun around as he sensed the three presences behind him, his eyes going wide as he stared at the figures. What is this? Children. Chizome hissed as he glared at the two standing behind the tall armored one. And you look familiar. Stain. The armored one yelled, shooting forwards as flames shot from his calves, the hero killer easily knocking him back with a swipe of his sword, the boy's helmet flying to the side. Here. Another child. He growled as the teen staggered back. This is no place for children, leave now. You're really the hero killer, Stain, aren't you? Ida growled as he staggered back to his feet, glaring at the man. I've been pursuing Yo Dash. The boy's words were cut off as Izuku punched the back of his skull, knocking his head down as the murderer watched in confusion. Tenya, enough revenge bullshit, Izuku muttered as he pulled his friend back up. We're here to take him in for the safety of the public, not just to satisfy a personal grudge. Oh! Stain cackled. Those are quite brave words for a child. What makes you think you have any hope of facing me? Oh, just this. Stain snatched the thrown object out of the air, glancing at the cylinder for a moment before it burst into a bright light that filled the alleyway. What even are these things? The hero shouted as she dodged the strange creature's massive fist. They just won't go down. I don't know. Another called as he threw an attack at the creature, but Ms. Joke said that they had multiple quirks. Whatever they are, they aren't human. Then there should be no problem with me going all out, the voice growled, the two heroes looking up in surprise as the man walked past them. Whoa! What? 𝐸𝐴𝐵 is here. They gasped. I finally got some free time to check up on my son, and this happens, he growled, not to mention that I heard that the hero killer was in the area. Is this why you didn't choose me, 𝐿𝐴𝐵? The massive black-skinned monster turned slowly towards the man, its eyeless head pinged to the side as it let out a series of clicking noises. Suddenly, it leapt forwards, letting out a blood-curdling howl, arms reaching for the pro. It barely managed 2 steps before it was engulfed in flame, staggering slightly as the fire died down, looking around as its skin crackled, quickly beginning to heal. Regeneration, here. 𝐸𝐴𝐵 growled, no worry. I'll just have to burn you until you can't regenerate. The creature clicked again, letting out a startled shriek as the pro grabbed the sides of its head, the flames blasting from his hands engulfing it. He strained, focusing the flames into a cone, compressing them tighter and tighter, quickly turning from red to orange, then to white. A moment later, the brilliant blue flames erupted, roaring like a jet engine as the creature flailed its arms, grabbing at the pro's arms before falling slack. 𝐸𝐴𝐵 grunted as he released the creature, the 𝐿𝐴𝐵 collapsing to the ground, its head charred black. Can't regenerate incinerated cells, he spat, kicking the thing, before his head twitched to the side, spotting the beige-skinned creature fly off with a woman in its claws. He moved to follow, staggering to a halt just as a gray-skinned creature with long gangly arms smashed through the wall of a nearby building, holding a screaming woman in one of its hands, the other stained with blood. 𝐸𝐴𝐵 grimaced, immediately turning on his heel and slamming a fist into the side of the gray monster, forcing it to drop the civilian. Run, now! 𝐸𝐴𝐵 barked as he slammed another blazing fist into the creature's chest, just as it looked up at him. The monster roared as the flames burst from its body, engulfing the surprised hero as the woman bolted away, still screaming and sobbing. 𝐸𝐴𝐵 growled as the flames faded, apparently unharmed as he glared at the creature in front of him. You call those flames, he spat, these are flames. Izuku grabbed Tenya and Shoto as Stain caught the flash grenade, spinning them around just as the device went off. The 3 turned back around to see the hero killer staggering back, a hand over his face as he hissed. Such trickery, the man spat, you are no hero. I will end you. Not happening. Izuku shouted, nodding to Shoto as the two-toned teen stomped his foot against the floor, sending a stream of ice towards the pro lying against the wall behind Stain. The man gave a cry as the ramp of ice suddenly lifted him up, sliding him past the hero killer as the villain swiped at the space he'd just been, his sword cutting deep into the ice. The pro gasped as Tenya and Izuku stepped forwards, standing between him and Stain, the two-toned teen crouching down and undoing one of the capsules on his belt, pulling out a small sachet of coagulating agent. Shoto, you focus on evacuating native for now, but keep in range, Izuku said, Shoto nodding as he began to drag the paralyzed hero out of the alleyway. Ingenium and I have a villain to beat. Little brats. Stain hissed as he blinked rapidly, his sight slowly returning, you're getting in the way of my duty. I'll kill you. The blue frost shot up Stain's legs a moment later, engulfing them in thick ice as the villain gasped. The sound of a roaring engine was all the warning the blinded man got to raise his sword in defense before the kick slammed into the blade, both battling to overpower the other. A moment later, the sound of shearing metal echoed through the alley, quickly followed by shattering ice as Ingenium's kick blasted through the sword, breaking it. The kick slammed into Stain's chest, throwing him back down the alley as he rubbed at his eyes, squinting at the 2 figures that stood against him. You diamond brats. Stain hissed again, you really think that you can defeat me? You're nothing but posers. Just like Ingenium. You. 𝐸𝐵 shouted, stepping forwards but stopping as Izuku grabbed his shoulder, shaking his head as he mouthed something, 𝐸𝐵's eyes going wide before he gave a sharp nod. Shut up, 𝐸𝐵. The damage you caused to my brother's spine, he'll never be a hero again. He's a leader. He's saved so many people. He is a true hero. The tears began to drip from Tenya's eyes as he glared at Stain, the man still squinting at them as the frost slowly built around him. You had no reason to cripple him like that. Tenya shouted, he's my hero. The hero who inspired my dream. Pathetic, Stain growled, his breath coming out in plumes of steam. You're just a legacy brat. You have no longing to save, you only wish to carry on the family line. That is no hero. I disagree, Shoto said as he stood beside Ida, the teen jumping slightly. I think it's a fine reason to want to help people. Here. So, the other one came back already. Stain growled, you think that your tricks and numbers will be enough to beat me? Well, you're wrong. Interesting, Shoto hummed as he glanced down at Izuku, the teen giving him a nod. Tell me, hero killer, Stain, do you know what sublimation is? Sublima dash. The man started before Todoroki threw his left arm up, releasing a gout of concentrated flame. The air warped over his hand, in much the same way it had the first time Izuku had used it. He focused, drawing the power as close to his skin as he possibly could, feeling the heat start to boil his blood. And then it was gone, the cold side of his quirk compensating for the heat as he rapidly cooled his body. The world went quiet, before the air pressure shot down the narrow alleyway and slammed into the villain with a massive blast, throwing him back at incredible speed. Hey! He screamed as he slammed into the far wall of the alleyway, blood spraying from his lips as he was pressed against the bricks. Your time has come, Stain. Tenya shouted as he leapt towards the villain, kicking him in the stomach as he slammed him back into the wall. The ice manacles shot from the frost-covered bricks a moment later, dark blue as they pinned the villain to the wall. Tenya growled, stepping back as he breathed, swinging a leg back as the hero killer glared at him. The kick slammed into the side of Stain's head, snapping it to the right as he spat blood, turning back to glare at Ida. The second kick snapped his head in the other direction, his eyes going unfocused as his head lolled on his shoulder. The third swung up, connecting with Stain's chin, slamming the back of his head into the wall as Tenya let out a ragged scream. Enough! The two interns were barely able to grab a hold of their friend and drag him back, Tenya fighting against them as they threw him to the floor, Izuku shouting, I said enough. No! Tenya howled, trying to get to his feet as Todoroki quickly froze his hands to the floor. He has to pay. He has to pay for what he did to my brother. Enough! Izuku roared, slapping Tenya across the face, the teen looking up at him in shock. Look at your feet, Tenya. They're covered in blood. Is that what you want? Is that what your brother would want? The teen stammered. No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't, Izuku repeated softly as he nodded to Shoto, thawing out Tenya's hands, he's already unconscious. Let's just tie him up and get out of here. I have zip ties and duct tape. I found some rope, Shoto called as he dug around in a trash bin, the other two looking at him in surprise. Who even throws out rope? Izuku asked. Someone that doesn't need rope anymore. Shoto replied. The flames engulfed the monster as it staggered back, growling like an animal as it crouched down. Hey, absorption and release, here. Endeavor laughed, but you take some damage each time. Your quirk is trash. The creature howled as its body suddenly doubled in size, its muscles bulging as it flung itself towards the pro. What? He growled, lifting a hand as flames gathered in his palm. The creature's tongue shot from its mouth, spreading out as it fell on the hero, wrapping around him and squeezing. A moment later, the Nomyu made a strangled cry, smoke beginning to rise from the tongue net. The creature was thrown back as the explosion blasted its tongue apart, scattering half-roasted meat across the street. What are you? Endeavor growled as the Nomyu scrambled to its feet, its tongue still smoking as it howled. Endeavor, one of the heroes shouted, Ms. Joke said that they have multiple quirks. Multiple quirks. Endeavor huffed, impossible. Or I would say that. The creature's body bulged once more as it prepared to launch itself at Endeavor again, the pro simply drawing back his fist, the flames coiling around it as they began to burn white-hot. Izuku gasped, making the other two teens look at him in surprise, two Nomyu. One flying with someone, the other heading straight for us through the ground. This is bad, we didn't ask Manuel to send back up. Tenya gasped. Don't worry, Ms. Joke should have asked, Izuku muttered, the sickening feeling in his head growing as the two creatures drew closer, but we'll have to help them find us. How? Shoto asked, blinking as Izuku grinned unsteadily, pulling something from one of his pouches and pointing it into the air. The bright red flare shot into the air, falling slowly as the three of them heard shouts go up nearby. "Let's move," Izuku said, helping Shoto carry the still unconscious Stain as they began to jog towards the noise. "Hey, what's going on?" someone shouted as they bolted into a wide street, the three in turns giving a sigh of relief as they saw the half-dozen heroes running towards them. "Holy s***, is that the hero killer, Stain?" "Yeah," Izuku gasped as he and Shoto dropped the bound man to the floor, his wrists and ankles tied with zip ties as his legs were bound with duct tape and his body wrapped in rope, another piece of duct tape securely wrapped over his mouth. "Though we have two Nomu heading our way right now. One in the air and the other underground." "Nomu," one of the heroes asked, "what are you talking about, kid?" "The guys that are attacking right now," Izuku shouted, looking around frantically, spotting the flying Nomu just as it turned into the street. "There's one now." He barely got the shout out before the ground beneath him erupted, the brown-skinned monster bursting through the tarmac. Izuku almost threw up as the creature wrapped its arms around him, yanking him down into the tunnel. "Izuku!" The shouts of his friends already sounded far away as the creature shot down the wide hole it had dug. Ms. Joke swore as she steered the helicopter over the destruction, radioing down to anyone she could as she spotted damaged buildings or civilians in need. It had barely been 5 minutes since Izuku had jumped out of the vehicle to go help his friends, and she had only just made it anywhere close to the area he had said the USJ villains were in. Suddenly, her searchlight swept over a rooftop, a pale-haired man and another dark figure raising their hands to block the light as it did. "Bingo," she muttered, recognizing them from the brief description Izuku had given her before she dropped him off, flipping on the helicopter speakers. "You two, freeze. You are under arrest." "What?" Shigaraki growled as he looked up at the garishly painted helicopter. "Who the hell is that?" "I do not know," Ķōgiri replied, "though they should not have been able to find us so quickly." "Damn it," Shigaraki spat, "get us out of here. Now." "Right away," Ķōgiri replied as he began to open the portal. "I said freeze," the woman shouted again as a tube on the helicopter suddenly fired, a thick steel net slamming into the two villains. "Ķōgiri!" Shigaraki howled as they were thrown off the water tower, the portal opening quickly just beneath them. Ms. Joke swore as she swung the helicopter around, trying to spot where the two had landed on the roof, only catching the last of the dark mist as it vanished. Izuku swore as he was dragged through the tunnel, his ears popping as they went lower and lower, the potential quirks he could use already too far out of his range to be useful. He looked up at the shadowy figure that was dragging him along, thick metal-like claws wrapped around his wrist as he fought against its monstrous strength. He felt its quirks, swearing again as he realized that the thing only had mutation types. It was too much of coincidence, almost as if it had been made to capture him. His mind went back to the conversation he had had with Nezu, Aizawa, and All Might. A chill ran up his spine as he remembered the description of the man that had injured All Might and his quirk. A quirk that could steal other quirks. And here he was, a quirk that could replicate quirks, just waiting to be picked up and used. "F that," he growled, fighting against the Nomu harder, hissing in pain as it tightened its hold, threatening to break his wrist. F. How do I get out of this?" Izuku looked back at the Nomu, concentrating on its quirks again. It only had two, one which gave it metallic hands, and another that made it like a mole. And if Izuku remembered anything about moles, it's that they were sensitive to light and sound. Great, he'd already used his only flash grenade on Stain. "Just the time I need Kaken, and he isn't around," Izuku hissed, trying to yank his hand free again, his bones groaning as the creature tightened its grip again. Izuku let out a scream, the monster twitching slightly as it began to drag him faster, the teen starting to struggle harder, his bones groaning in protest again. "Let me the FGO!" he shouted, trying to kick the Nomu, the creature suddenly turning on him, one hand raised. Izuku gasped as he was slammed into the wall, the air knocked from his lungs as he choked. He looked up at the exposed brain of the Nomu, a pair of small black eyes positioned directly on the front of its head, a long snout protruding from its face. The world started to go dark as his consciousness began to fade, the teen reaching out one miraculously free hand to point it at the beast. Go, he managed to splutter as he reached into himself and pulled. Izuku! Shoto and Tenya screamed as their friend was dragged down into the hole, vanishing from sight a moment later. We have to go after him. No! One of the heroes shouted, grabbing a hold of them, it's too dangerous. You guys are just kids. He's our friend. Tenya almost sobbed, yanking his arm free, we have to save him. Tenya! Shoto! The familiar voice shouted as Manuel ran up to them, there you are. I know I said that you could go, but things are getting crazy. Is that the hero killer, Stain? Yes, the two said hurriedly as they made to jump down the hole, Tenya shouting as they dropped in. Izuku got grabbed by one of the Nomyu. We're going after him. Wait, what? Nomyu? What's a Nomyu? Manuel asked, looking at the other heroes, who just shrugged. It's what they called the guys attacking right now, one of them said, the whole group jumping at the sound of revving engines, looking down into the hole just as Shoto jumped on Tenya's back and they shot off. Oh SHT. Those kids. Endeavor breathed slightly as the creature fell, its body black and crispy. It had taken far too long to defeat the DMN thing, and now he had no idea where the flying creature had gotten to. Or where his son was. This is Endeavor, he growled into his communicator, report. Have you found Shoto? Yes sir, one of his sidekicks said nervously, he and his friends apparently defeated the hero killer. We are currently holding Stain as we wait for the police. The hero killer. Endeavor blinked as he repeated the words, a sense of pride welling up in his chest. Excellent. Where is Shoto now? We don't know. Endeavor could hear the flinch through the radio, a mixture of panic and rage boiling up in his chest. What do you mean you don't know? Endeavor hissed, where is my son? He jumped down a hole with one of his friends after the other one was grabbed by a mole-looking guy. The sidekick spluttered, we're at the 4th of February Teneku Street right now. The 4th of February Teneku Street, NG growled, I'll be there immediately. The explosion echoed down the tunnel, surprising Shoto and Tenya as they glanced at each other, Tenya kicking his quirk into a higher gear as they sped up. Come on Izuku, Tenya muttered, be okay? The two slid as they rounded a curve in the tunnel, Tenya skidding to a halt as they stared at the scene in front of them. Izuku was standing, barely, BLD dripping down his chest and mouth as he held out a hand, explosions crackling across his palm as the massive brown-skinned creature staggered away, letting out a pained cry. Izuku! Tenya shouted as the teen stepped towards the creature, making him stop as he looked at them, the explosions dying in his hand. Oh, hey, guys, he breathed as more BLD dripped from his mouth. Midoriya! Shoto yelled, throwing his left hand forwards, a massive gout of flame narrowly missing the teen's head as it slammed into the hulking mole Nomyu that loomed up behind him. We have to get out of here. Izuku coughed, more BLD spilling from his lips as he staggered towards them, his eyes glassy as the Nomyu let out a pained roar. Tenya grabbed his friend, lifting him into his arms as he turned away. The three were already sweating from the heat as Shoto continued to blast the Nomyu with a stream of flame as Tenya started running, his legs aching from the effort, his engines whining in protest of the excess weight. Hey, guys, Izuku muttered as they ran away, Shoto throwing up a wall of ice just behind them. I copied Kaken's quirk, now is not the time, Izuku. Tenya yelled as he pushed himself harder, the pain in his legs building as he forced himself forwards, the Nomyu exploding through the thick wall of ice as though it wasn't even there. But Kaken isn't here, Izuku giggled, his eyes unfocused as he began to sag in Tenya's arms. It's cold, stay with me, Izuku. Tenya yelled, panic in his voice, we're almost out. Keep talking. The Nomyu, the green-haired teen muttered, made to find me, for once, Quirk, keep talking, Izuku. Tenya felt the tears drip from his eyes. This couldn't happen. Not now. He just almost lost his brother, and now he was at risk of losing his friend. His engines misfired, making him stagger, the pain rocketing up his legs and into his body as he fought back a scream. He howled. Willing his quirk to work even harder, his exhausted legs to keep going, 𝐼𝐳𝐵. They shot forwards, Shoto almost falling off at the sudden increase in speed, the two-tone team throwing up multiple walls of ice behind them to slow the Nomiu by even a second. They were escaping. They were going to do it. They were going to make it. Tenya's engines sputtered, misfiring. They fell, slamming into the hard ground as they skidded to a stop. Tenya screamed as his legs felt like they were exploding, black smoke pouring from his exhausts. Shoto gasped as his head smacked into the floor, sending him reeling. Izuku flopped to the ground, motionless. The Nomiu smashed through the wall of ice, roaring as it loomed over them. Shoto! Nito sat up as from where he was lying on the mats, startling Okiko as he looked around in a panic. "What's wrong, Monoma-san?" she asked, wiping her neck with a towel. I don't know, he muttered, "I just got the feeling that Izuku had done something stupid again." I mean Midoriya. Okiko asked, fighting back a slight blush. "What do you mean? Is there anything going on right now?" Nito shouted to Gunhead as the man talked to some of his sidekicks, making him look over. "Something big is happening, isn't it?" "Well, yes." The man nodded, his usually cute speech clipped and serious. "Hosu is currently under attack by a group of villains." "SHT. Nito hissed, scrambling to the side of the dojo, digging his phone out of his bag. "Don't be involved. For the love of all that is holy, Izuku, do not be involved." "What are you talking about, Monoma-san?" Okiko gasped as she hurried to his side, blinking as the panic overtook the blonde's face. "Isn't Midoriya at Ketsubatsu right now?" Izuku's phone lay smashed beside him, the teen staring at the flames reflected in the cracked screen as he continued to mutter quietly to himself, his mind a mess of confusion and ideas. He'd managed to copy Katsuki's quirk, without the angry blonde having to be near. How had he done that? He just did what he normally did when he copied a quirk, except this time he didn't copy it. He made his quirk the same. He replicated it without needing a reference. How? Why? Was it something to do with why Endeavor was currently standing over him? He couldn't remember. Everything was so cold. "Stay with me, Izuku." The voice sounded far away and in pain, Izuku barely recognizing it as Tenya, his vision blurring as he felt someone grab him under the arms, dragging him behind the giant flaming, but that was Shoto's dad. Hey, Shoto had been with them, hadn't he? If Tenya was here, then Shoto probably was as well. Right. They both went to Manual. Izuku wanted to laugh at that thought. He wondered what Endeavor's face had looked like when he found out. He'd have to talk about it with Ms. Joke. Why was he thinking of her? Oh, right, his internship. He was interning with her. She was fun. He liked her. The wind picked up, beating against him as he was dragged slowly out of the tunnel. Oh yeah, the Nomiu. It had grabbed him. Dragged him into a tunnel. Why was the wind so strong in a tunnel, anyway? Maybe it had to do with the fact that he could see Endeavor fighting the mole Nomiu, blasting it with a stream of flame. The fire was probably skiing air from the outside down into the tunnel, creating the wind. That was a lot of power for such a simple quirk. Even if he wasn't, but Endeavor was still strong. We're almost there, Izuku, another voice said, filled with panic as he looked up into blue and gray eyes. We're almost there. Keep talking. I love you guys, he laughed, his chest aching as he did so. Best friends forever. Of course, he could hear the tears in Tenya's voice. Best friends. Forever, Izuku mumbled as the darkness closed in. You gotta say it, forever. Tenya shouted, Izuku blinking as he saw the night sky, the shadows of the buildings creating big blocks of darkness against the diamond-studded sheet of dark blue, the circular hole framing all of it. Strange lights blinked off to the side of the hole, flashing red and blue as people suddenly gathered around the edge, looking down at them. Things were lowered down into the hole, his body being picked up and strapped to something. He smiled as he felt himself slip away. Aizawa groaned as he sank into the plastic hospital seat. How had this happened? How had 3 of his students ended up in hospital, 2 for extreme quirk exhaustion, and 1 for that and even more severe injuries? Not to mention that they'd lost one of the Nomiu that had been present at the Hosu attack, the flying creature still probably loose in the area. From what Ida and Todoroki have reported, they were given permission to engage Stain by Manual, Tsukochi's side, and Ms. Joke explicitly stated that she gave Midoriya permission as well. Shota growled, "What the F?" "I understand your concern," Tsukochi hummed, "but the fact of the matter is that they managed to capture Stain after they were given authorization by their mentors. By all rights, they didn't break any laws. They're Fin kids." Aizawa shouted at the man, apologizing quietly when a number of nurses glared at him. "They're just kids. This is, I know, the detective side, I know." "Excuse me," the nervous voice asked, making the two men startle as they looked at the short green-haired woman. "Are you by chance Shota Aizawa?" "Yes," Shota replied, nodding as she seemed to relax a little. "How can I help you?" "I'm Inko Midoriya, Izuku's mother." Shota immediately stiffened as he recognized the hair color, feeling a sense of cold dread slip down his spine. "Did you know how Izuku is doing?" "The doctors, they said it was serious, but they won't give me details." I am so sorry," Shota muttered. "I should never have let this happen, Midoriya-san." "What are you saying?" the woman gasped, tears forming in her eyes. He's in critical condition," Shota replied, gently taking her arms as he directed her to sit on the seat beside him, a mixture of extreme quirk and physical exhaustion, and a crushed ribcage. "The doctors are doing all they can, but it's too dangerous to use any healing quirks on him right now. The stamina drain could kill him." Oh, the woman gasped, blinking as she seemed to stare blankly into the distance, before she suddenly started digging around in her bag. "I need to tell Nito. He needs to know that Izuku is. She burst into tears, falling against Shota as the man flinched slightly, before slipping his arms around her, pulling her into a hug. "I'm sure he'll be fine," Shota hummed. "Your son is a fighter. One of the best I've ever seen. He'll make it through this. I promise." "F Beach!" Tomura yelled as he grabbed onto the metal net, the object quickly falling apart in his hands. "I wanted to watch for longer." "How did she know where we were?" "Because the boy was with her," the deep voice hummed from the television set, making Tomura freeze. "Sensei," the pale-haired man said as he pulled himself free of the net, "you sound upset." "Him?" "Oh, yes," the voice sighed, making both villains stare at the screen in shock and fear. "But not at you." "No, never at you. I just had a slight mishap with one of my other plans." "Nothing to worry about, Tomura Shigaraki." "Oh," the man sighed in relief. "Is it? Can I do something to help?" "You wish to help me," the voice hummed. "Thank you, but that is unnecessary. I will handle this myself." "Wise, Sensei," Tomura muttered as the screen went dark. "How is he?" Those were the first words that left Ida's mouth as soon as Shota walked into the room. "Stable, but still in critical condition," the teacher replied, watching as the two students relaxed, then flinched. "He'll pull through, I'm sure." "He has to," Ida muttered. "He saved me, from Stain, from myself." "What are you saying, Ida?" Aizawa hummed as he moved closer to the boy, both Ida's legs up in slings, a nutrient drip feeding into his calves. I wanted to kill Stain," the blue-haired teen sighed, looking up at Aizawa, the man simply nodding. I almost did. Izuku, he stopped me. He said that it wasn't what my brother would have wanted. He is right." "What about Stain?" Todoroki asked, making both look at him as he scratched at the bandages wrapped around his head, the knock on his head thankfully only having given him a mild concussion. "He's in custody," Shota replied, both teens seeming to relax slightly again. "He won't be hurting anyone else." "Oh," Ida sighed, "good." "Yeah," Todoroki breathed. "When can we see Midoriya?" "See." Shota blinked as he looked at the two bedridden students. "I don't know. The doctors are monitoring him for the moment, and don't want anyone that isn't absolutely necessary in his room." "Understood," Todoroki replied, sagging slightly. "I hope he's going to be okay." "I'm sure he will," Shota sighed. "As for the two of you," the two students looked up at their teacher as he sighed, walking over to and opening the door, 3 people walking in. A man with a dog head, another wearing a simple beige trench coat, and Manuel all nodded as they entered. "You have guests." "You idiot." Nito looked at his best friend as the green-haired teen lay in the bed, his eyes closed, the machines slowly beeping and whirring around him. "You absolute idiot." "Nito," Midoriya said as she looked at the teen, wrapping her arms around him as she saw the tears welling in his eyes. He'll be fine, sweetie. I'm sure. Of course he will, Nito sniffed. He has to be, so I can kick his butt for doing this. Shota. The panicked voice made Aizawa flinch, turning to look at the distraught green-haired woman as she hurried down the hospital corridor. He replied, looking away as she stopped in front of him, wringing her hands nervously, his stable right no dash. I'm sorry. Shota paused, looking back up at the woman, taking in her red and puffy eyes, and the clear tear tracks running over her cheeks. It's my fault this happened, I'm so sorry. The woman let out a small sob. You trusted me with him, Shota muttered, watching as the woman began crying. He's such a good kid. He has so much potential. And I've ruined it because I let him go after that maniac Stain. It's okay, Shota tried, taking her by the shoulders as she sobbed. Stain didn't do this. It's not your fault. What do you mean? She sniffed, looking up at him, Shota wincing at the tears still streaming down her face. If I hadn't let him go, then he would still be fine. If I hadn't suggested that we patrol Hosu, then dash. 2 of my other students may very well have been killed, Shota said firmly, making her blink in surprise. I can't condone what they did, but it isn't your fault that Midoriya is like this. He may have been targeted for his quirk and dash. What? She shouted, drawing the looks of the nurses. Shota, explain. Now. Shota sighed as EMI stared at him in shock. His quirk is special. The way it works is unique and there may be people who would want it. What are you keeping from me? She asked slowly, still staring at him as he looked away. Shota, what are you hiding? Is this something I can't know about? Why? Because, the man sighed, I'm sorry. It's just because. I can't tell you any more than I already have. Okay, she sighed back, wiping her eyes with her hand. Is he going to be okay? He's stable right now, Shota nodded. The doctors have done all they can, but he's still too exhausted for healing quirks. They have him in a medically induced coma right now. Oh, she said flatly, staring up at him, Shota nodding solemnly back. EMI collapsed into his arms, pressing her face against his chest as she let out a loud heaving sob, her fingers curling into his capture weapon as she cried. Shota hesitated for a moment, before he slipped his arms around her, squeezing her gently against him, letting her cry. They stood like that for a while, before the woman let out a quiet chuckle, sniffing as she looked up at him. Hey, she said, her voice hoarse from the crying, don't we look like a couple of worried parents right now? Not the time for jokes. Shota sighed, the woman resting her head against his shoulder. I wasn't, she whispered softly, pressing against him a little more tightly. Hello, the tall blue-haired boy said as he was wheeled into the hospital room, casts on both his legs as he sat in the wheelchair. I am Tenya Ida, a friend of your son's. Oh, yes, Inko said as she got up from her seat, walking over to him as she wiped her eyes. You're one of the vice representatives of your class. Izuku has told me a lot about you. He has. Ida muttered, looking away. I wanted to apologize. Oh, there's no need, Inko hummed, smiling softly at him. It wasn't your fault dash. But it is. Ida shouted, if I hadn't wanted to avenge my brother so badly, if I hadn't chosen Hosu, then Izuku would never have ended up here. Inko gasped as the boy pulled himself off the chair, falling to the floor, his casts audibly hitting the ground as he bowed low, tears dripping down his face as he spoke. Please, she said, trying to pull him upright. Please, don't hurt yourself any more than you already have. Izuku wouldn't like that. But it's my fault. Ida sobbed, wincing as he allowed himself to be pulled back into the chair, his legs aching. All of it is my fault. The slap rung out through the room, Ida blinking in surprise as he lifted a hand to his cheek. Never blame yourself like that again, the woman said sternly, her voice sharp and exact as she spoke. Never, ever, blame yourself like that again, young man. But, Ida tried. No buts. What would your brother think of you if he knew that you were blaming yourself for something that wasn't your fault? She huffed as he sat back down. And yes, I know who he is. Like I said, Izuku has told me a lot about you. No, he wouldn't, Ida found himself chuckling weakly. You and your son are very similar. He got me to say the exact same thing before. Well, that just means I raised him right, the woman hummed as she helped him settle. I understand that it was you and another boy who saved him from the thing that grabbed him. I wouldn't say saved, Ida mumbled, looking down at his legs. If Endeavor hadn't been there, we would have made it out, the monotone voice said from the door, making both jump as they looked up at Shoto, the boy nodding as he entered the room. I apologize for the intrusion. Oh, it's quite all right. 𝐭𝐸 smiled as she pulled up one of the seats, indicating for him to sit. I'm just so grateful to the two of you for saving my son. You are welcome, Shoto said as he bowed his head, Tenya looking at him in confusion. He would have done the same for us. I'm sure, 𝐭𝐸 sighed, looking back at the sleeping boy, before turning back to the other two, a wide smile on her face. Now, tell me what Izuku is like at school. 𝐭𝐸 hummed quietly to herself as she rearranged the flowers on the side table, her eyes darting to her son's face every few seconds, hoping for him to wake up. She looked up at the sound of the door opening, blinking at the strange woman standing in the door, Izuku's homeroom teacher just behind her. She looked back at him, sniffing slightly as 𝐭𝐸 could see the red rings around her eyes, before Aizawa-san seemed to push her inside the room. Can I help you? 𝐭𝐸 asked, smiling kindly at the woman as she gazed at Izuku, new tears seeming to already be welling up in her eyes. Her voice cracked, the woman coughing slightly as she seemed to gather herself. My name is Emi Fukukado, also known as the pro hero Ms. Joke. Your son is my intern for the week. Oh, 𝐭𝐸 hummed, keeping the same pleasant smile on her face as she looked at the woman. And how can I help you? You've probably heard your fill of apologies by this point, haven't you? Emi chuckled weakly, 𝐭𝐸 nodding slightly as the woman sagged. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I feel to blame for your son's current condition and dash. Emi was cut off as 𝐭𝐸 walked up to her and threw her arms around the hero, squeezing her tightly as she patted the taller woman on the back. It's all right, my Izuku is strong, he'll make it out of this just fine, 𝐭𝐸 hummed as Emi shook, a new wave of tears pouring from her eyes as she hugged the mother back. And I'm sure he'll have something ridiculous to say about it when he wakes up. Oh, definitely, Emi managed between her sobs, he's such a great kid. I would be lying if I said I wouldn't want a kid like him. And you may as well have one, 𝐭𝐸 chuckled, making Emi look at her in confusion before she explained. Izuku has a habit of adopting people as his parents. I think he has about 8 moms now, and half a dozen dads, including his own. Oh, Emi sniffed, wiping her eyes again. I don't know what to say. Just accept it, sweetie, 𝐭𝐸 hummed, releasing her and handing her a tissue. He won't take no for an answer. I'm his mother, I know this. Izuku floated in the haze. He didn't know how long he'd been there, only that it was a long time. His mind was fuzzy, his body numb. He could barely feel his quirk inside of him, let alone the quirks around him. Where they were usually sources of brilliant light, shining like dozens of unique stars, now they were barely tiny sparks in the darkness, fading in and out as they shifted around him. There was one near him that had barely left his side. It had taken him a moment, but he had been able to identify it as his mother's quirk, the woman obviously fretting over him as her spark flickered and pulsed, just like it did when she was stressed. Oh, my sweet baby boy, her voice sounded far away and muffled, as though she was speaking to him from another room. My Izuku. You must pull through. Please. For me. For your friends. He wanted to apologize to her. For making her worry. For letting this happen to himself. But his voice wouldn't work. Mrs. Midoriya, the voice was unfamiliar, as was the quirk that accompanied it. How are you doing? Doctor. How is my son? The woman asked immediately, Izuku wanting to smile at her concern. How long will he have to be like this? We don't know, the man shook his head. Between the damage to his ribcage and the physical and quirk exhaustion, we had no choice but to induce a medical coma for his own safety. We're unsure how long he'll have to be out. Oh, my baby, his mother sighed, holding his hand tightly, Izuku frowning to himself as he grabbed at the doctor's quirk. From what he could tell, it was a basic touch quirk that could reduce pain, but had the side effect of making his hands glow. 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳. See, can you hear me? Once for yes, twice for no. 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳 pulsed the Quirk twice, making his mother chuckle slightly as she set his hand down. He can hear us, the doctor asked, the surprise obvious in his voice. That's highly irregular for a medical coma. It doesn't matter, his mother said, he's okay, or, at least better. If you can copy the doctor's quirk, do you think you'll be able to copy other quirks? One slow pulse. A maybe. Okay, we'll see about bringing someone with a regeneration quirk in then. 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 sighed, her voice sounding more stable. Is that okay, doctor? I don't know. He's still obviously suffering from quirk overuse, but, the man trailed off, but he'd probably recover more quickly if his physical injuries were healed. We'll see about it. Thank you. 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 sighed as she squeezed her son's hand, 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳 pulsing the doctor's quirk in response. 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳's eyes cracked open as the last of the drags slowly faded from his system, the teen looking over to see Recovery Girl scowling down at him. Well, young man, she sighed, you certainly got yourself badly hurt this time, didn't you? He tried to speak, his voice cracking almost instantly as he coughed, his throat painfully dry as he felt a wave of grogginess wash over him. Stay quiet for now, the woman sighed. I've finished the healing, so you'll be able to be discharged tomorrow, but you're still under observation until then. Thank you, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 croaked as he accepted the glass of water from his mother, sipping on the straw. You're welcome. Now, I think you have some visitors, the elderly woman hummed as she hopped down off the stool she was standing on, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 looking up at the door as the 6 people entered. He grinned at 𝐻ENYA and 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐸, the two smiling in relief as they walked in, stepping up to his bed. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 glanced at the bandages still wrapped around 𝐻ENYA's legs, raising an eyebrow at the taller teen. The two stood beside his bed as the others entered. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 blinked as the Hosu police chief walked in, the dog-headed man nodding to him, closely followed by a man in a simple tan trench coat and 𝐈𝐳𝐻𝐸. Ms. Joke was close behind, almost holding onto the back of 𝐈𝐳𝐻𝐸's shirt as she glanced nervously at 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳. Young man, the police chief barked, do you know why we are here? I'm getting a medal for helping capture 𝐲𝐸𝐻𝐸. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 chuckled, drawing a glare from 𝐈𝐳𝐻𝐸. Take this seriously, problem child, the man growled. Geez, sorry dad. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 sighed as Ms. Joke fought back a laugh behind the man. Is it because I was involved in the apprehension of a known and dangerous criminal? Aptly put, the dog-headed man chuckled, sounding like a series of short barks. Yes, exactly. From the reports of your classmates, you were instrumental in the apprehension of the hero killer, 𝐲𝐸𝐻. I would like to thank you for your efforts. No need, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 said calmly, making everyone look at him in surprise. It's a hero's job to stop villains. And he hurt a friend of mine, so even if 𝐻ENYA wasn't going to go after him, I was. Oh, the man lifted an eyebrow, glancing at the man in the trench coat, who gave a quick nod. That is quite the dangerous thing to admit, young man. Tantamount to admitting to vigilantism. I would have done it with Ms. Joke, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 replied, looking at the woman as she started. Part of my quirk allows me to sense the quirks of others, so I would have been able to track him down. Yes, I've read the reports, the police chief hummed, the sound closer to a quiet growl. But all the same, I must thank you once again for your assistance in apprehending the hero killer, 𝐲𝐸𝐻. As it stands, we will be giving you a full interview and debriefing at a later date, once you have recovered fully, if that is fine. Of course, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 smiled as the man nodded, before glancing at the trench-coated man behind him. If at all possible, I'd like the interview to be conducted by Detective 𝐒𝐭𝐴𝐻 here. The man jumped at the mention of his name, staring at 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 in surprise as the rest of the room blinked. You know me, the man asked, giving 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 a skeptical look. We have a mutual friend, 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 grinned. I recognized your quirk from his description. Ah, very well, the police chief huffed. We'll organize it. For now, I believe your friends and teachers wish to speak with you. Thank you, sir. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 bowed his head as the two men walked out of the room, before grinning at 𝐻ENYA and 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐻. So, when's the party? Party, they replied in unison. For capturing 𝐲𝐸𝐻. We're basically real heroes at this point. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳 laughed, stopping when 𝐈𝐳𝐻𝐸 placed a hand on his shoulder. Not for a while, problem child, the man growled. First, we have important matters to discuss. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳. the green-haired teen shouted happily as his best friend burst into the room, glaring angrily at him. "How's your internship been?" "You idiot." The hand chopped down on top of Izuku's head, making him flinch as the blonde berated him. "What the hell did you think you were doing? Going after the hero killer like that? And it's all over the news. Though they thankfully didn't mention any of your names, but still. You are an idiot." "Love you too, Stain," Izuku hummed as he rubbed his head. "And I wasn't thinking too much. Stain hurt my friend, so he had to go down. You're so lucky you aren't dead." Nito growled, wrapping his arms around his friend, pulling him into a tight hug. "He could have killed you." "Nah, he was actually surprisingly easy to take down," Izuku hummed. "It was the thing after that hurt me." "Another Nomyu, right?" the female voice asked. Izuku, looking up to see a blushing Okiko standing in the door. They were all over the news. "Yeah," Izuku sighed. "Another Nomyu. Though this one didn't have any quirks I could copy. Tenya and Shoto ended up saving me from it, though that part is kind of fuzzy, seeing as I just had my ribcage crushed." The two flinched at the mention of his injury, Izuku grimacing slightly at their reaction. "So, you're healed up now, right?" she asked, looking at his body as he grinned. "Strong enough to have you sit on me again," Izuku chuckled, making her blush harder. "Though that's only if you want to." "I wouldn't tease her too much, Izuku." Nito smiled mischievously at his friend. "I may have educated her on a few things." "What?" Izuku asked, a look of horror dawning on his face. "No, you didn't." "The penguins," Okiko giggled as Izuku blanched, looking between the grinning blonde and giggling girl. "You bstrd," Izuku hissed. "Anyway," Nito growled, quickly chopping Izuku on the head again. "I still have to finish scolding you for doing something so reckless." Okiko watched as the blonde she'd gotten to know over the past few days reprimanded his friend, the other teen half begging for forgiveness as he tried not to laugh. She chuckled quietly to herself, watching their antics. "Yo dude," Denki called as the students filed into the room. "We all managed to get permission to come see you, Mr. Hero." "Sup, my man." Izuku laughed back as he watched them walk in, Mina grinning as she held up some fruit. "We all pitched in to get you a melon," she called, the rest of the students nodding. "Well, I'm sure your melons are the best." Izuku laughed, the pink-skinned girl blushing slightly as she set it down on the side table. "And I'm flattered that you all took time off your important internships just to come see little old me." Asui, Kirishima, Tokoyami, and Hagekyo also wanted to come, but they couldn't get time off. Zero hummed as he looked around the room, though they send their best as well. "I'm touched," Izuku said, patting his chest. "I made you some cookies," Rikido said as he placed them beside the melon. "As sweet as you are, I'm sure." Izuku grinned as the muscular boy rubbed the back of his head bashfully. "Do you ever stop flirting?" Gyro sighed, her ears lighting up when everyone turned to look at her. "Not if you like it," Izuku chuckled, the students spinning to look at him as he grinned. "Anyway, how have you all been? Done anything cool?" Momo sighed as she looked at her phone, reading through the messages on the class group as they wished Izuku a speedy recovery. She'd wanted to go visit him as well, but Uwabami had been surprisingly strict about it. Beside her, Kendo glanced at the screen, nudging the onyx-haired girl with her elbow. "So," the redhead asked, "how is he?" "Here." Momo gasped, jumping slightly in surprise. "Oh, he's fine. Fully healed and being discharged tomorrow." "That's good," Kendo hummed. "Monoma was freaking out on the group about it, so I was worried." "I'm sure," Momo hummed, getting up as she stretched, before letting out a tired sigh. "Well, we shouldn't keep Uwabami waiting. At least we're patrolling today. Are you sure you do not wish to go see your classmate?" "F him," Bakugo growled. "I don't give a SHT about that useless Deku." "Are you sure?" Best Jeanist asked again. "I would not fault you for worrying." "Why the F would I be worried about that Quirk stealing shitnerd?" the blonde yelled, getting up from his seat to storm out of the room, twitching as his clothes tightened around him. "I do not appreciate that kind of language in my agency, Bakugo-kun," Best Jeanist hummed. "It seems we still have more work to do on your education." "FFF," the blonde howled as he struggled against his bonds. "Midoriya." 𝐒𝐬𝐿 looked over as Tenya walked into the room, the bandages that had been wrapped around his legs now gone as the teen approached the bed. "Tenya, I told you, we're friends, call me 𝐒𝐬𝐿, 𝐒𝐬𝐿 hummed, watching as the blue-haired boy pulled up a chair, sitting heavily in it as he stared down at the floor. "What's up?" Thank you," Tenya sighed. "You're welcome," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 replied. "What are you thanking me for?" "Stopping me. With Stain." "Ah," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 hummed. "Yeah, you were kind of going ham on his face for a moment there." "You saved me," Tenya continued, looking up at the green-haired teen. "You saved me from Stain, and from myself." "Thank you." "No problem, buddy," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 said softly, reaching over and patting Tenya on the shoulder. "I'd do it all again. You're my friend, and I protect my friends." "Thank you." "Oh, stop saying that." 𝐒𝐬𝐿 chuckled. "You're making me blush. Anyway, how are you? Your legs were apparently pretty banged up." Yes," the teen replied, sitting back in the chair. "I pushed my quirk too hard. Almost broke the equivalent of my engine block." "Wait, isn't that like the whole engine?" 𝐒𝐬𝐿 gasped. "What the hell did you do to manage that?" "I was carrying you away from the Nomu," Tenya replied, 𝐒𝐬𝐿 flinching. "I also had 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 on my back, and was exhausted from fighting Stain." 𝐒𝐬𝐿 muttered. "That could have ended your whole career." "Yeah," Tenya sighed, "but I don't regret it. I couldn't lose you. Not after my brother. Hey, he's still alive and, well, not exactly kicking, but you get it," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 chuckled, flinching slightly at the look of surprise Tenya gave him. "Sorry, that was in poor taste." "No, Tenya chuckled, which quickly turned into a loud laugh. "You're right. He's still alive, and I should be grateful for that." "Thank you, 𝐒𝐬𝐿." "Anytime, Tenya," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 grinned back at his friend. "You ready to go, kiddo?" 𝐒𝐸𝐼 asked as she stood outside the hospital with 𝐒𝐬𝐿. "You betcha, 𝐒𝐸𝐼." The teen grinned back, stretching slightly as he looked around. "You sure?" A hint of worry entered her voice as she asked, 𝐒𝐬𝐿 looking up at her with a kind smile. "Yeah, I'm sure," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 replied, reaching out and patting her on the shoulder. "Recovery girl, and the doctors said I was fully healed." "And your quirk?" "Still a little weak, but I think it'll be back up to full strength soon enough," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 grinned. "I think my optimal copy range is only about 6 meters at the moment, but that shouldn't be a problem." "I hope not," 𝐒𝐸𝐼 sighed, looking down at 𝐒𝐬𝐿 for a moment, before pulling him into a tight hug. "You had me worried, kiddo." "Sorry, 𝐒𝐸𝐼," 𝐒𝐬𝐿 replied, hugging her back. "I promise I'll be more careful in the future." "You better be," the woman laughed. "But are you ready to start training again?" "Of course." "Good, because we have a lot to cover in the next 2 days," she replied. "Just because you were laid up in hospital for a couple of days doesn't mean you get to skimp out of hero training." "I wouldn't have it any other way." "Omake," Shoto yawned as he stumbled out of his bed, exiting the hospital room in a daze as he looked around. "Bathroom," he muttered as he began walking down the hallway, glancing down at the cell phone in his hand. "Hey, don't we look like a couple of worried parents right now?" the familiar voice said as he turned a corner, his eyes going wide as he stared at the 2 people in front of him, embracing. "Not the time for jokes, 𝐸𝐼," his homeroom teacher muttered, settling slightly into the hug. Shoto lifted his phone without thinking, the sound of the shutter drowned out by the noise of the hospital around him. "Breaking news," the horned newscaster said as he sat at the desk. "The villain Stain, real name Akaguro Chisome, has been captured. Last night, during the vicious attack by an unknown gang of villains on the city of Hosu, Stain was apparently apprehended by a small group of heroes." A grainy picture filled the television screen, showing 3 indistinct forms carrying another out of an alleyway and into the street. "They apparently encountered him in an alleyway off Iku Street and were able to apprehend him," the man continued, nodding slightly as he spoke. "Many are glad for the so-called hero killer being off the streets, and have wished to know the identities of the individuals responsible. However, their identities have been asked to be kept anonymous to help protect them from potential copycats or followers of the hero killer." "There are many rumors that have popped up about this already, aren't there?" the woman sitting beside him said. "Some people are saying that the hero killer and the gang of villains are connected." "Unfortunately, we have no proof of this at the current time," the man replied, looking at her. although the appearances of the 4 villains bear a striking resemblance to the one that was involved in the attack on UA by an unknown group last month. True, the woman nodded, though we urge residents of Hosu to be careful. While 3 of the villains that attacked last night were apprehended, one has been reported to have escaped and dash. The screen went blank as Shigaraki turned the television off, throwing the remote across the room. Those BSTers, he growled, they didn't even talk about us. Only the hero killer. We're not even mentioned. And the Nomu are barely more than a sideshow. Calm yourself, Tomura Shigaraki, Kurogiri hummed as he cleaned a glass, this is only a minor setback. I am sure that soon your League of Villains dash. Shut up, the man screamed, it's not working. Everything I try just isn't working. Why? It's so unfair. And it's all that green brat's fault. I'll kill him. Listen to Kurogiri, Tomura Shigaraki, the deep voice said as the television buzzed to life again, making both jump slightly as they looked at it, this is only a minor setback. I am sure you will be able to rally others to your cause soon enough. But sensei, the man whined, staring at the screen. But nothing, Tomura Shigaraki. The irritation in his voice was slight, but obvious, making the villain reel back in shock. You are my successor, it is time you began to act like it. Shigaraki muttered, yes, sensei. Good, the man hummed, now, allow me to assist you in planning your next move. The dark-haired figure watched the news broadcast on the large screen as he slouched against the wall, scratching slightly at the scars on his face. The girl hummed a cute tune to herself as she watched the clip of the boy being carried away from the hole in the street on a stretcher. She liked her lips as she saw the dark red stains that covered the front of his costume. I'll avenge you, Stain, the scaled man growled as he slicked back his hair, scowling to himself as he glanced over at the numerous articles pinned to the wall of his shabby apartment. Jiran sighed as he sat back in the chair, his companion whining about something or other as the man lit a cigarette. It's hard, you know, the one-eyed man sighed, seems like no one wants to commit crimes anymore. Yeah, Jiran replied, sitting forwards as he scrolled through his phone. With the capture of the hero killer, things have quietened down a whole lot. Can't believe he was done in by a bunch of kids. I know, his companion sighed, you got anything big at all happening? Don't know, Jiran shrugged, some group calling themselves the League of Villains contacted me recently, asking for recruits. Far as I can tell, they're small time, but a few sources say they were behind the attack on UA. Oh really? And what are they planning now? No idea, the man took a drag on his cigarette, but whatever it is, they are paying good money for able bodies. Especially mutation quirks. Maybe I should volunteer then, his companion laughed, before going back to his drink. Thank you for having me, Izuku said as he bowed to Ms. Joke outside the gates of Ketsubutsu, the woman grinning back at him. Not a problem, kiddo, she laughed, it was a pleasure. The two nodded to each other, wide smiles on their faces, before they both stepped forwards and hugged tightly. Watch yourself, Izuku, Imai sighed as she squeezed him, you're a great kid, and are going to be an even better hero. Thanks, Izuku chuckled, squeezing her back, I promise I will, Imai. See you around, the older woman called as Izuku began walking towards the station. His bag on his back and his costume case in his hand. He walked for a while, humming to himself, greeting a few people on the streets as he went. His phone beeped, the green-haired teen pulling it out and looking at the message Tenya had sent him, laughing at the attached image, Shoto lying face down in a pile of paperwork as the two-tone teen was obviously fast asleep. He received another message a moment later, snickering to himself as he looked at Shoto's text. Please delete that. No, you're cute when you sleep, he sent back, laughing loudly when he only got a question mark in return. Izuku sighed as he arrived at the station, looking around for a moment, before heading towards his platform. He arrived, glancing behind him as he moved, slipping into the small crowd of people that had gathered there, waiting for the train. He expertly slid between them, doubling back after a moment as he spotted his target. So, he said, making the blonde girl with messy buns on the sides of her head jump, what's a cute thing like you doing here all on your lonesome? Ooh, you snuck up on me. She gasped, a wide smile on her face as she stared at him hungrily, not many people can do that. Well thank you, Izuku laughed, I try. Anyway, you've been following me for a while, so what gives? Oh. You could tell I was there. But I was sure I was hidden. I have my ways, Izuku shrugged, before looking up as the station announced his train. Anyway, I have to go now. Here, call me. He handed her a slip of paper, the girl looking at it in surprise as he stepped away, walking onto the train as the doors opened. A phone number was written on it, a small winking emoji drawn just below. Himiko smiled as she slipped the paper into her pocket, watching the train pull away. The class stared as the ball of flowers walked into the classroom, staggering slightly as it made its way over to the teacher's desk, before dropping onto it. Izuku let out a breath as he brushed a few errant petals off himself before turning and grinning at the class. Ignore this for now, he chuckled, trust me on that. Midori. Mina shouted, Izuku smiling at her, you have to see this. Hey Pinky, what am I dash? Izuku froze, staring at the head of neatly styled blonde hair sitting at the desk in front of his, oh my gods. One word, Deku, Bakugo growled, and I will smear your face across the wall. Izuku muttered, his eyes wide with shock, before he spun around, a hand clamped over his mouth. Midoriya-kun. Tsuyu asked, are you okay, Kiro? I'm fine, Izuku squeaked, still hunched over as if he was about to vomit, I'm perfectly fine. You don't look fine, Okiko said as she hurried to his side, do you need to go to the nurse's office? No, perfectly fine. Izuku wheezed, staggering to the door. Just got to, he'd barely made it out of the room before the class heard the massive fit of laughter echo in from the hallway, Bakugo scowling. It lasted for a minute, then a minute more, the blonde looking more irate with each passing second. Suddenly, he leapt from his chair with a screech, his hair popping back into its familiar spiking form as he shot towards the door. I'll kill you, Deku. Wow, he's more sessed off than usual, Kaminari muttered as they listened to the sounds of explosions from the hallway, but hey, how'd the internships go for the rest of you? Not much happened, Gyro sighed, mostly just logistical stuff. But you got to face villains, didn't you? Mina said enthusiastically, and Zu did as well. Just some foreign smugglers, the frog girl hummed, I didn't help much, Kiro. That's amazing. Mina laughed, before cheering to Okiko, and you, Raka? How was your internship? It was instructive, the girl replied, sliding into a martial arts stance as her eyes began to glint, before she gave a quiet giggle, in more ways than one. You were with Monoma from Class B, right? Mina chuckled as she slipped an arm around the brunette's shoulders. He tell you any fun stories about Midori? Oh, a few, she giggled again. Raka, Enna, the shout rang out as Izuku darted back into the classroom, closely followed by Bakugo, who was still trying to blow him up. Please. Anything but that. Oh, I have to know now. Mina gasped, giving a disappointed pout as Okiko just shook her head. Or, you're being no fun. Hey, if we're talking about transformative internships, it has to be you three, right? Kaminari laughed as he looked at Tenya, Shoto, and Izuku, the three looking back. Didn't you guys face off with the hero killer? How do you know that? Shoto asked flatly, blinking in surprise. Oh come on, the blonde laughed. They may have kept your identity secret, but anyone who knows you would recognize your costumes. That is true, Tenya hummed. My armor is rather distinctive. Yeah. And you all ended up in the hospital because of it. Kaminari continued, shrieking when Kyoka jammed one of her jacks into his ear. Idiot, she grumbled, you can't just go saying things like that. But we kind of did, though, Izuku replied as he ducked under one of Bakugo's swipes, dodging around the blonde as he let out a stream of curses. Thanks for worrying though, Kyo-chan. Keiken, the earphone jack user muttered, her ears lighting up in a blush. Enough, the stern voice growled from the doorway, the students all scrambling to get to their seats as Aizawa walked in, glaring at them. He walked towards his desk, pausing for a moment as he saw the massive pile of flowers sitting on the object, his eye twitching as his head immediately snapped towards Izuku. Mom says hi, Izuku snickered, the man letting out a long groan as the rest of the class looked at them in confusion. Shota was tired. This was not an uncommon state for the pro-underground hero and teacher to be in. In fact, it had been his default state basically since he'd left school, and even most of the way through school. So, the lack of sleep didn't really affect him all that much anymore. What was affecting him right now was the poster stuck over the door to the teacher's office. It was large and well made, showing an image of two people hugging tightly in the hall of a hospital, the words "My parents" across the bottom in flowing text. That wasn't the problem. The problem was who the people in the image were. Or, Shota, MIC crooned beside him, "I knew you had a soft side." "Shut up," the tired man growled as he ripped down the poster of him and Ms. Joke hugging down, crumpling it up and stalking into the room. "So, when's the wedding?" Nemuri called, grinning impishly at him. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Shota muttered back, shoving the poster into the bin as he passed. "Oh really?" Khan laughed, because the poster stuck to the outside of 1B's door seems to suggest otherwise. "Here. Outside 1B's door." Nemuri hummed, "I saw the one stuck to the principal's door this morning." "What are you talking about?" Hizashi chuckled, pointing to the bin. "There was one stuck to the door outside right now." "Shota, partner," Snipe said as he entered the room behind, holding up a thick stack of posters. "Any idea why there are a whole bunch of these plastered all over the place?" "The support department workshop was basically wallpapered in them," Powerloader hummed. The room looked at each other, Shota letting out a low groan as he turned and walked out, not willing to put up with this. As he left, the hallway suddenly darkened, a large piece of fabric falling over most of the windows in the hall as he heard a familiar shout. "SHT. Izuku Midoriya hung upside down just outside the window, apparently attached to the building by some sort of waist-mounted device. This thing is harder to control than my said." "Midoriya," Shota growled, "what the hell are you doing?" "Oh, nothing." The teen grinned as he pressed a button on the device, suddenly shooting down and out of view. Shota bolted for the door, scrambling down the stairs and into the main entrance hall, before shooting out into the sun. The students around him all stared, though not at him. Slowly, he turned, dread filling his chest as he looked up at the 5-story tall tabard that was hung across the front of the main school building. "Wow," Hizashi whistled as he joined Shota to look up at the massive image. "Wonder how he afforded all that." "I am here." All Might laughed as the class stood in front of the field, "and the reason for that is your basic hero training." "Is that all?" "I expected something more after a break. Do you think he's run out of shticks?" The class muttered as All Might just laughed. "I'll never be out of shticks." "Now, as a follow-up to your internships, today's activity is a playful one." The pro said loudly, "A rescue race." "Shouldn't rescue training be conducted at the USJ?" Tenya asked, his arm shooting up stiffly. "That's for disaster training," All Might replied. "Today's activity is a race. You will be split into teams of 5, with each team going one at a time, and will race to reach me, who will be hidden somewhere in practice field Gamma behind me." All Might gestured to the massive complex behind him, the mess of industrial buildings creating tightly packed and thin alleyways. "Of course, you'll be expected to keep property damage to a minimum." The hero called as his finger flicked towards Bakugo, the blonde growling, "Now, onto the first team." "I don't know if Zu or Ida is going to win," Okako said as they watched the first team move up to their positions around the field. "I think Asui," Momo hummed. "Ida may have speed, but she has greater maneuverability." "Yeah, but there's also Zero," Denki called as he sat beside Kyoka. "This race was basically made for him. And Shorji's also in there." "Heh," Bakugo chuckled, the class looking at him in surprise. "That Quirk stealing If Deku is screwed." "Oh yeah, Midori's at a disadvantage here," Mina sighed. "Everyone is starting spread out around the field, and all his opponents have mutation quirks." "I don't think he'll come last," Shoto muttered as he looked up at the screen. "He seems too confident for that to happen." Izuku grinned to himself. He knew he had little to no chance of winning. This exercise was basically made for the tape-dispensing teen across the field from him, but that didn't mean he wasn't without an advantage or two. He closed his eyes, focusing on the star-like Quirk of All Might, which had stopped moving for a while now, figuring out his most likely location. Izuku looked up, eyes laser-focused on the tall silo in the distance, before they darted to the nearest building, already planning his way up. "Start!" The shout rang out as Izuku shot forwards, jumping onto a fire escape and scrambling up it, on the roof of the mock factory in seconds. He immediately began running across the flat surface, ducking around the random pipes and vents that littered its surface. He reached the edge, eyes scanning the next structure, already planning his route as he jumped. "Whoa! Look at the moves on Midori," Rikido said as they watched the teen jumping, sliding, and flipping over the rooftops at top speed. Did he always know how to move like that? He must have picked it up from his internship, Toru called. "How cool." That BSE. The class looked over at Bakugo as explosions crackled across the palms of his gloves. "He's copying me." "I don't think so," Kirishima said, not flinching as the blonde shot a mean glare at him. "I mean, isn't that more like how Aizawa-sensei moves?" "Oh, totally," Jiro said as she watched. "It's really cool, almost like dancing. I wonder if he'd teach me." "Ooh, yeah," Mina gasped. "It is almost like dancing. I wonder if he'd be any good at that. Maybe I should teach him." "You know how to dance?" Kaminari asked. "Awesome. Can I learn too?" "Me too," Toru shouted as she hopped up beside them. Izuku was breathing by the time he reached the top of the silo, having had to climb the stairs that circled the structure. He looked around, grinning as he spotted Hanta and Zu waiting for him, the winner's sash over the boy's shoulder. "Yeah, figured," he huffed as he stretched slightly. "Still, got here before Tenya, so that's a plus." "Yeah, Kero," Tsuyu hummed as she walked over. "How'd you do it? I would have thought you would only make 4th or 5th. Sorry if that was rude." "Your confidence in me is inspiring," Izuku chuckled. "Just like you." Zu just blinked at him, placing a finger on her chin as she tilted her head. It took another 5 minutes before Ida showed up, apologizing for getting lost in the maze of paths, closely followed by Shoji, who congratulated Zero on his win. "An excellent showing." All Might laughed. "Now, it is time for me to move to my next hiding spot. Away I go." He jumped away, Izuku chuckling as they moved down the silo. "I wonder if he'll actually hide this time," the green-haired teen asked the others. "I mean, on top of a massive silo isn't exactly discreet." "Izuku-in." The shout rang out as Izuku and his group of friends walked out of UA's gates, the green-haired teen looking around for a moment before he spotted the girl. "Himikai," he shouted back, throwing his arms up as she ran towards him, wrapping him in a tight hug as he hugged her back. "What are you doing here?" "I was bored, so I came to see you," the blonde said, hopping back as she held her hands behind her back cutely. "Oh, that's so sweet," Izuku laughed. "Midori, who is this?" Jiro asked as she watched the girl, slightly unnerved by the too wide grin on her face and the glint in her eye. "Oh, this is Himiko," Izuku replied, stepping forwards to stand beside the girl. "I met her last week at the train station. She was following me, so I gave her my number." "Why you gave her your number?" Okako gasped, staring at him in shock. "Just like that." "Why?" "She seemed lonely," Izuku shrugged. "Anyway, we've been messaging for most of the week, and it turns out she's actually really fun. And her quirk is so cool too." "Izuku-in," the girl muttered as she grabbed his arm, giving him a pleading look. "Oh right, you don't like talking about your quirk." "Sorry, Himikai," the teen said softly, petting her head as she leant into the touch, smiling again. "You seem very friendly for having only met a week ago," Tenya said, raising an eyebrow as the girl hugged Izuku's arm tightly, pressing herself against him. "I hope this is not something inappropriate." "And what if it is?" Himiko purred as she pressed her face into Izuku's neck, the boy giggling at the contact as the group stared in shock. "Calm down, Himikai," Izuku chuckled as he pushed her gently away. "They aren't going to steal me away from you." "You two talk like a couple, Kero," Zu said as the rest of the group tensed, looking to her. "Not really." Izuku shrugged. "Himikai is just really friendly." "Wanna go for ice cream?" the blonde asked, smiling widely, showing off her sharp teeth as she looked at Izuku. "I saw a place nearby." "Sure." Izuku laughed, turning to his friends. "You guys want to join us?" "Aizawa-san," Nedzu hummed as the teacher entered his office. "What brings you here?" "You called me, sir," the tired man sighed. "That I did." The mouse-like being laughed as he took a sip of his tea. "Do you know why?" No, sir, Shota almost growled, used to Nedzu's games. I assume it has something to do with the students. Right you are. Tell me, what do you see here? Nedzu said as he turned the screen towards the scowling man, Aizawa watching the security camera footage of the outside of the gate. After a moment, Midoriya and several other of his students walked on screen, the green-haired boy stopping and looking around. A blonde-haired girl wearing an unfamiliar school uniform came running into view, all but jumping into the teen's arms, before the two talked to his classmates for a bit. He was about to dismiss it before he saw something. A glint in the girl's eye, the way she moved. I see a bunch of teenagers, Aizawa sighed, though the girl that joined them has the air of someone dangerous. Possibly, Nedzu hummed, clicking away the video, showing a high school profile, Himiko Toga, a mostly normal middle school student up until only recently. Recently? Aizawa asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, she was involved in an attack on a fellow student at her school at the end of her last year of middle school, Nedzu explained. Apparently she had a crush on him. But when confessing, she attacked him with a box cutter, and attempted to drink his BLD. Drink his BLD? What's her quirk? That's the problem, Nedzu sighed. The quirk registry form was never filled out properly. As far as we know, her quirk involves the consumption of BLD, and little else. Why are you telling me this? Aizawa asked slowly. You're worried that she may try to attack Midoriya. Not only that, Nedzu said as he brought up another video, showing the girl from before skipping out of an alleyway, wiping her hand across her mouth, a bloody knife in hand. She is believed to be linked to at least one murder. Aizawa growled, turning to leave. I have to get to them immediately. Not yet, Nedzu hummed, making the man pause. I think this may be a chance to help the girl. She doesn't seem to be that great of a danger at the moment, and I'd prefer to bring her in peacefully rather than risk endangering our students. Endangering? She's a suspected murderer. Shota shouted as he hurried towards the door. They're all in danger. Eraserhead, the name was barked at him, making the pro freeze as he slowly turned to glare at Nedzu. I would prefer to try a different approach with this one. Talk to Midoriya about the situation first if you would. So, where do you go to school? I don't recognize your uniform, Tenya asked as they sat at the table in the small cafe, Himiko pausing halfway to liking her pomegranate ice cream as she looked at the other students. Oh, I'm kind of between schools right now, she giggled, before liking the dark red ice cream, letting out a satisfied sound as her surprisingly long tongue ran across it. Oh, then why are you wearing a uniform? Gyro asked as Okako ate her ice cream mochi beside her, smiling serenely. It's easier, Himiko shrugged, glancing sideways at Izuku beside her, before scooting her chair a little closer to him. People don't ask as many questions when I wear it. Questions? Like what, Kiro? Tsuyu hummed, Himiko glancing at Izuku as the boy gave her a reassuring look. Oh, you know, Himiko muttered, why aren't you in school? Where are you going? That sort of thing. Oh, so are you being homeschooled then? Ida asked, eating a spoonful of orange sorbet. Something like that, she replied. The conversation died slightly, an awkward air descending on the table as they silently ate their treats. So, how'd the two of you meet? Okako asked. Izuku said it was at the train station. Oh, I saw a video of Izuku on the internet, Himiko giggled, her eyes clouding over slightly as she sat back in her chair, a wild grin stretching across her face. I saw him get pulled out of that hole, where he had all of that BLD on him. So much BLD all down his front. It was so secretary. I knew that I had to meet him. The girl giggled again as she looked at the rest of the students, all of which were staring at her in shock, Himiko freezing as she realized what she'd just said. Oh no, she whispered, dropping the last of her ice cream on the table, before bolting for the door. I have to go. Himiko! Izuku shouted as he shot after her, the rest of the table just staring as they left. Himiko fought back the tears as she ran, slipping between the crowds with practiced ease. She'd seen Izuku follow her out of the cafe, and she had to lose him. Even if he'd said that her quirk was fine. Even if he said it was cool. That he liked it. She bit her lip as the tears formed in her eyes, forcing the thoughts from her mind as she passed through the crowd. Then her mind was blank, the world around her seeming to move in slow motion as she darted into a side alley, running down it as quickly as she could, letting her thoughts rush back as she got to the other side, entering a small park. Place to hide, she muttered as she looked around, spotting the one of those big domes with the slide on top, the girl hopping through one of the holes in the side. She hunched down, pressing her back against the cool fiberglass, still fighting back the tears as she tried to remain as quiet as possible. She pressed her mouth against her arm, biting into it as she let out quiet sobs, panic washing through her for a moment. After several minutes, she released her arm, hissing quietly at the pain of the bite, though thankful she hadn't broken the skin. She remembered the last time she tried drinking her own BLD. It had made her so sick. "Are you feeling better now?" the familiar voice asked, Himiko jumping as she watched Izuku step through one of the holes, the teen smiling comfortingly at her. "I didn't want to disturb you while you cried." "How?" she breathed. "How'd you find me?" "I did the thing and everything. I have my ways," Izuku chuckled, stepping closer to her, stopping when she flinched back. "Okay, I'll stay over here." "Are you okay? Why'd you follow me?" Himiko muttered, looking away. "Aren't you scared of me?" "Everyone is scared of me. Scared of my quirk." "I'm not," Izuku said softly as he took another step forward, "and I know what your quirk is. And what it needs." "How?" the girl growled, slipping one of her knives out of her sleeve, ready to attack. "My quirk lets me sense things about the quirks of others," Izuku said. "That's how I found you. I can also copy people's quirks, just like you." "Just like?" "I don't copy quirks, though," Himiko replied, looking at him strangely. "Well, you can, just like me, and my friend," Izuku said in a soothing tone, stepping forward again as he knelt in front of her, pulling off his blazer and rolling up his shirt sleeve. "You must be hungry. Do you want some?" "You'll let me?" Himiko squeaked, staring at the arm in shock. "Go ahead," Izuku hummed, before laughing, "just not too much. I still need to be fit enough to do basic heroics tomorrow." Himiko felt the tears well up in her eyes as she leaned forwards, her lips touching his arm, her teeth touching his skin, the sweet taste of his BLD filling her mouth. She swallowed. "Izuku." "Yes, Mom," the teen asked as he ate his breakfast. "Why is there a strange girl sleeping in your bed?" "Well, I couldn't give her the couch last night," Izuku shrugged. "She's a friend. From school." "Not exactly," he replied, glancing at his bedroom door. "She needed help. So, I helped her." "Of course you did, sweetie," Inko hummed as she reached out and took his hand, squeezing it. "Is there anything I can do to help?" "You're already doing plenty, Mom," Izuku said as he got up from the table, hugging the woman. "I love you. See you later. Oh, and tell Himiko I'll be back this afternoon." "Aizawa-sensei." Shota looked up as Midoriya stood beside his desk, despite the class having ended 5 minutes ago. "Yes, Midoriya, how can I help you?" he muttered, remembering Nezu's words from the previous day. "I have a friend," Midoriya started, making Shota perk up. She needs help. But she doesn't really trust adults." "Himiko Toga," Shota said, blinking when the teen didn't react, instead relief washing over his face. "Okay, so Nezu knows about her, that helps." "Yes, he does," Shota growled. "Midoriya, you do know that she's a suspected murderer, right?" "I had my suspicions," the teen sighed, looking away. "It's just, I want to help her. Her quirk is, it's so cool. And interesting and useful, and I just want to help her before she falls any deeper." "Deeper?" Shota asked. "What do you mean by that?" "She has to drink BLD for her quirk. She gets weird when she hasn't drunk for a while," Izuku answered. "That explains one thing," the man muttered, making Izuku raise an eyebrow. The victims were partially exsanguinated. They had most of their BLD drained out. "Oh," Izuku muttered. "Yeah, she probably did that." "Midoriya, where is she?" "At my apartment," the teen answered, "with my mom. Don't worry though. I'm sure Himiko won't hurt her. I gave her some BLD yesterday and she calmed down a whole lot." "You gave her?" "Of course you did, DMN. Problem child," Shota sighed, before getting up from the desk and walking out of the classroom, calling to Izuku to follow him. "Come on, we're going to see Principal Nedzu about this." Himiko woke up slowly, stretching in the comfortable bed as she looked around the room, frowning at the unfamiliar space and the myriad of hero posters staring down at her. She pulled the covers to the side, looking down at the slightly too large t-shirt she was wearing, the kanji 4 pajamas across the front as she tried to remember what was going on. The memories of yesterday suddenly flooded back, the girl letting out a quiet gasp as she remembered what had happened. Meeting Izuku outside the cafe. His friends. Slipping up. Running away. Being found. Izuku letting her drink his BLD. Himiko couldn't help the that escaped her throat as she remembered the sweet taste of his BLD. So much better than any animals, or even that one guy she'd liked. If only he hadn't fought back, she wouldn't have had to hurt him so much. His BLD didn't taste as good when he stopped moving, it made her feel a bit weird too. "Are you awake?" The female voice called from the other side of the door, Himiko immediately up and reaching for her knives, pausing when she realized that she didn't have them. The voice called again. "I made some lunch, Himiko-chan. You're welcome to come and eat it. Izuku told me about you." Izuku. Himiko muttered, looking around the room, spotting her knives neatly laid out on the bedside table, the girl grabbing them quickly and slipping them into the pocket of the loose pair of shorts she was wearing. "You know Izuku. He's my son, Himiko-chan," the woman said. "He told me you don't really trust adults, so you don't have to come out if you don't want to. I'll just leave the food by the door." "Oh," the girl said, listening to the sounds of something being placed outside the door. "Okay. Thank you." "You're welcome," the woman called as Himiko heard her walk away. Slowly, the girl stepped up to the door, cracking it open and peeking out into the hall, not seeing anyone. She looked down, spotting the tray with the still steaming food on it, her stomach growling as the smell hit her nose. "It's good to see you again, my Doria-san," Nedzu hummed as the three of them sat in his office, "and I'm glad to see that you're taking your ambition of being a hero very seriously." "I just want to help, sir," Izuku replied, nodding to the rodent-like creature as he took a sip of tea. "Even if the person you're trying to help is a villain?" Nedzu asked. "Especially if they are," Izuku nodded sharply, "they are often the people that need the most help." "An interesting philosophy," Nedzu nodded back, "and one that is not entirely wrong. I understand that young Toga is currently at your apartment with your mother." "Yes, sir." "And that you allowed her to drink some of your BLD yesterday." "Yes, sir." "And that you know that she is a suspect in at least one murder case." "I suspected that she might have hurt people because of her quirk," Izuku nodded, "and Aizawa-sensei told me about the murder just before we came here." "Is that so?" Nedzu muttered, looking at Aizawa. "Well then, young man. Care to tell me how you intend to help this girl?" Himiko wiped the tears from her eyes. How long had it been since she's had a home-cooked meal? 3 months. 4. Longer probably. Her quirk sometimes made it hard to remember things. She'd been living on store-bought food since she ran away from home. From her parents. She still didn't hate them. She was just angry. Upset. Was that what she was feeling? She couldn't tell. Her emotions kept getting mixed up when her body craved BLD. Himiko finished the food, quietly taking the tray and placing it outside the door. After a moment, she heard movement, her body going rigid as she waited for the door to burst open, the police or heroes or worse, her father, to come barreling in and grab her. Her grip tightened on the handles of her knives. Instead, she heard a soft humming and the clink of plates, before the person walked away. She relaxed slightly, looking around the room in interest. It was the first time she'd been in a boy's room, and it was different from what she'd expected. The walls were lined with a mix of hero posters, which made her scoff, and workout regimes. Himiko looked at one with interest, the poster showing how to counter a person who was attacking you with a knife. She copied to diagrams, getting a feel for the technique. If nothing else, it would help her be able to resist the counter in the future. "I've washed your clothes." The words made her jump, spinning to stare at the door, her heart rate skyrocketing as she snatched her knives back up. "I hope you don't mind. They were quite dirty." "No, thank you," Himiko said quickly, trying to calm herself as she walked over to the door, looking down as she yanked it open, expecting to see the clothes on the floor. Instead, she came face to face with a short woman, her dark green hair making her relation to Izuku obvious, just as she was about to lean over to place the clothes down. "Oh," she said, standing back up and holding the clothes out, "I hope you liked the food." It was good," Himiko muttered, taking the clothes. "I'm sure you're nervous about being in a strange place with a strange person like this," the woman said softly, Himiko flinching at the tone, waiting for the shouting to start. "But I promise you, we won't hurt you. Izuku said to tell you that he'd be back this afternoon, after school." "Oh okay," Himiko replied, unconsciously liking her lips as she remembered the taste of his BLD, "That's good. I'll leave you alone now, so you can change," the woman hummed, before stepping away and walking down the hallway. Himiko said, making the woman pause and turn to look at her, Thank you." "Not a problem, dear," the woman smiled back, "not a problem at all." "This is ridiculous," Aizawa growled as he looked at the principal. "You want her to attend UA? Really?" Midoriya had left earlier, after pleading his case for why Toga deserved a second chance. He had been persuasive, but Shota was still unsure. "I don't see why not," Nezu hummed, "and it's not like you haven't already taken another student under your wing. Aren't you always complaining that there aren't enough underground heroes?" "That's beside the point," the pro muttered. "The problem is that she's a murderer. Suspected. And I'm not asking you to forgive her for that," Nezu continued. "And anyway, becoming a ward of UA would be able to serve as her parole, and we would be able to help with her quirk. I still don't see why we should do this. Wouldn't it be better to have her admitted to a psychiatric hospital? And risk her feeling abandoned again?" Nezu replied, making Shota start. "I fear that would only reinforce her need to act as a villain." "Wait, again. What are you talking about, Nezu?" Shota huffed as the rat turned his screen back to the pro, a number of documents displayed on the monitor. "Her parents haven't reported her missing, even though their neighbors have said that Himiko-san has not been seen around their estate for at least a year," he explained, pointing to the screen, not to mention the several reports of abuse that were made over the years previously. "However, their family is relatively influential, and were able to sweep the matter under the rug, so to say." That's unforgivable," Shota growled. "You're saying that they just abandoned their daughter. Why? Because her quirk was difficult to handle." "Exactly," Nezu smiled as he saw the familiar glow in Shota's eyes. "Do not worry. I will personally be addressing this matter. However, first we must earn the trust of Himiko Toga. And the easiest way to do that is through Midoriya," Shota finished, nodding. "Fine. But I still don't like getting my students involved in this." "None of us do, Shota," Nezu hummed, "but they are training to be heroes. Perhaps we should let them be." "I'm home," Izuku called as he walked through the door, dropping his bag as he kicked off his shoes. "Izuku-in," Himiko cried as she shot out of his room, wrapping her arms around his neck, and burying her face in his neck, taking a deep breath. "I missed you." "Hey, Himikai," the teen laughed as he hugged her back. "How's your day been?" "It was okay," the girl mumbled as she released him. "Your mom is nice." "She is, isn't she?" Izuku hummed as he smiled at the girl. "Were you okay staying in the apartment? Did you go out?" "No," Himiko shook her head, her shoulder-length hair still down. "I just stayed in your room." "Okay, that's fine," Izuku said as he petted her head, the girl blushing slightly as she leaned into the touch, a smile gracing her lips. "Are you hungry? Do you want me to make you something?" "I'm okay," the girl replied. "I ate not too long ago. The food was good." "That's great," he laughed, walking past her. "Just give me a minute to change, then we can talk some more, okay?" "Okay," Himiko said excitedly, skipping after him, waiting by the door of his room as he closed it. Himiko liked her lips, fidgeting slightly as she stood outside the room. She could hear Izuku moving inside, probably taking off his clothes as he changed. She blinked as she felt the cold surface of the door handle in her hand, looking down at it. Would he notice? Could she make it seem like an accident? What did she want from this? "I'm done," Izuku called as he opened the door, startling her as she stared at him. His eyes are really green, she thought, and his freckles are cute. Are you okay, Himiko? Izuku asked, suddenly leaning forwards and pressing his forehead against hers. You're really red. Are you getting sick? I don't think so, Himiko replied, her heart fluttering at the contact. You said you wanted to talk, right? Oh, yeah, Izuku said, looking away with a slightly sad expression. I'm not sure if you'll like what I have to say. Why? Himiko asked. You don't want to be my friend anymore? No. Izuku gasped, looking back at her. I still want to be your friend. Definitely. It has to do with your quirk. And the things you have to do because of it. Oh. Yeah. I thought you would be upset. I'm not, Himiko muttered. If it's you want to help me, right? Yeah, Izuku hummed as he led her towards the TV room, sitting her down on the couch. I will always want to help you. So, are you okay talking about this with me? Himiko started, her words catching in her throat. I don't know. But we can try. Have you noticed anything odd about Midori? Mina whispered to the group of girls as they gathered around her desk during the free period, all of them glancing towards the green-haired boy in question as he wrote in one of his notebooks. What are you talking about? Gyro sighed. He hasn't been acting any differently than before. No, the pink-skinned girl replied, a mischievous grin on her face, but he smells different. What? Momo gasped as they all looked at Mina in surprise. What are you talking about, Mina? Okiko hissed, glaring at the other girl. I hugged him the other day, the girl explained, and I definitely smelt perfume on him. I think he has another woman. Another woman? Toru gasped, spinning to stare at the teen, who continued to write obliviously. How can you be sure? Maybe it's his mom's perfume. Why would she wear Young Love by Chanel? Mina said, nodding sagely, I'm sure it's another girl. Maybe it's his sister's. Okiko muttered. His an only child, Mina countered. A friend, Kiro. Tsuyu tried. We're all his friends, and you know how he acts around us. Maybe they aren't dating. Gyro said. Why? Jealous. Mina chuckled, Kyoka's ears lighting up in a blush. Anyway, we have to find out. Why? Momo asked. Isn't his private life, well, private? Because, Mina grinned as she looked at the teen, Izuku stretching in his chair. I want to know. It had been a week since Himiko had begun living with the Midoriya household, though she'd done little more than stay in Izuku's room for the first few days, only venturing out when absolutely necessary. She'd bumped into 𝐒𝐿 a couple more times, always acting defensive when she saw the adult, but had slowly started to get used to the gentlewoman's presence. It had been a Thursday when she had peeked into the kitchen as Izuku and his mother had been eating supper, silently walking over to the table and placing her meal beside Izuku before sitting alongside him. Izuku had beamed as she joined them, 𝐒𝐿 just smiling gently as she asked if the girl wanted a drink. Now she was sat in one of their armchairs, staring at the television with her legs drawn up to her chest while 𝐒𝐿 quietly cleaned. This had been their ritual for the last few days, Himiko darting to Izuku's room when 𝐒𝐿 got too close or she was done watching whatever show was on. Today, however, the girl spoke. I like Izuku. Oh. 𝐒𝐿 jumped at the sudden words, looking over to Himiko as the girl watched her owlishly. Well, that's understandable. He's a very good boy. And an excellent friend. I like him more than that, Himiko replied, still watching as 𝐒𝐿 gave a quiet hum of acknowledgement, continuing with the cleaning, like when I like someone so much, I want to be them. 𝐒𝐿 stopped again, turning to look at the girl in confusion. It's my quirk. I can turn into people. Oh, 𝐒𝐿 hummed. Izuku said you don't like talking about your quirk. You don't have to if you don't want to. Himiko nodded as she turned back to the television, staring blankly at the screen for a minute. I have to drink their BLD. For my quirk to work. Is that so? 𝐒𝐿 replied softly, well, there are all sorts of quirks in the world. I'm sure Izuku would be happy to help you with Dash. I've been drinking Izuku's BLD. The two of them froze, Himiko in fear as she waited for the older woman to start screaming, 𝐒𝐿 in surprise as she looked at the girl. Well, 𝐒𝐭 sighed, walking to the other couch and sitting as far from 𝐒𝐿 as she could, more for the girl's comfort than any aversion she may have. That explains the bandages on his arm. I'm sorry. You don't have to be, 𝐒𝐭 hummed reassuringly. I'm sure Izuku let you do it to help you. That boy is always trying to help people. 𝐒𝐿 just nodded as she watched the woman, surprised that she seemed so calm despite all this. If you don't mind me asking, 𝐒𝐿 said, making 𝐒𝐿 jump, why are you afraid of talking about your quirk? My parents don't like it, 𝐒𝐿 muttered, looking away. They wouldn't let me out except for school cause I kept trying to drink animal blood. Oh. They used to hit me when I did it. The tears started dripping from 𝐒𝐿's eyes as she spoke, not sure why she was telling this strange woman she'd know for barely a week everything, and lock me in a cupboard. It was dark and scary. Oh sweetheart, 𝐒𝐿 gasped, shifting slightly closer. I don't know why, she said, tears running down her cheeks. I have to do it. Or I feel weird. But if I do it then people think I'm weird. The feeling is scary, like I can't stop myself. I just want to. 𝐒𝐿 fell silent as she buried her face in her knees, sobbing quietly as 𝐒𝐿 fought the urge to hug the girl. They sat like that for a while, before 𝐒𝐿 finally looked up again. I think I killed someone, she whispered. I don't remember all of it. I liked him. He was cool and nice. But he fought back and I think I killed him. Are you sorry you did? 𝐒𝐿 asked slowly, watching 𝐒𝐿 carefully as the girl shook her head. I don't know, I was so hungry. But not for food. And he tasted really good. Until he stopped moving. The two sat in silence once more, 𝐒𝐿 watching the girl with worry as 𝐒𝐿 stared blankly ahead of her. I'm scared I'll do that to Izuku, the blonde said, turning her head to stare directly at 𝐿�. I really like him. I want to be like him. I want to be him. But I'm scared I'll go too far again and 𝐒𝐿 barely managed to shed the next round of tears before she was swept up into a tight hug, her body going rigid as the woman gently squeezed her. She stared in shock, swallowing loudly as the woman's scent reached her nose, the smell of lavender and soap filling her senses. It was strangely comforting. She blinked as she felt her arms slip around 𝐿�'s waist, hugging her back, the girl pressing her face into 𝐿�'s shoulder as the tears came again. She wailed into the soft fabric of her cardigan, holding onto 𝐿� as if for dear life as she sobbed and cried. It's okay, 𝐒𝐿-chan, 𝐒𝐿 cooed as she petted the back of the girl's head. Let it out. Izuku trusts you. I trust you. You won't hurt us, I'm sure. Sensei. Shota looked up as Midoriya smiled at him, inwardly groaning as he recognized the look on the teen's face. What is it, Midoriya? He sighed, going back to the worksheets he was marking. I was just wondering if Nito and I could join you and Hitoshi for training. Izuku grinned as the man stiffened, turning slowly to look at him. I have no idea what you're talking about, Aizawa growled as he stared at the teen. I'm not training anyone. Except your class. I can give you dates, times, and approximate locations of your training with him, Izuku replied, still grinning as the teacher sighed. You forgot I have a sensory aspect to my quirk, didn't you? No, Shota muttered, glaring at the tests on his desk as if they were to blame for this. I just didn't expect you to find out so quickly. Well, I did, Izuku hummed, so, can Nito and I join you? You're not going to stop asking until I say yes, are you? Not a chance. Fine, Shota growled, but not a word to anyone else. I'm training him off the clock, so it's technically unofficial. My lips are sealed, Izuku replied, drawing his fingers across his mouth like a zipper. Oh, and I may be able to bring my friend along soon as well. Your friend? Shota sighed, looking back at the teen. Really? Yeah, she's doing a lot better. I think she'll be able to come on campus soon, the teen said, a look of worry flashing across his face. I hope. I'm home. Izuku called as he walked through the door, shutting it behind him before kicking off his shoes. He turned, arms open just as 𝐒𝐿 barreled into him, hugging him tightly as she pressed her face against his neck, inhaling deeply. You hungry, 𝐒𝐿? He laughed as the girl shook her head, blinking when she pulled away and he saw the thick red rings around her eyes. Are you okay? Did something bad happen? And no, Himiko muttered as she released him, stepping back slightly as she stared at the floor. I wanted to say thank you. For helping me. Of course, Izuku smiled as he gently took her hands in his, squeezing them. I will always try to help you. Izuku, his mother said as she walked out of the living room, a serious look on her face as the teen blinked. Himiko-chan and I had a little chat. You did? Izuku gasped, looking between his mother and the girl, Himiko nodding slightly. That's good. That means you're learning to trust again, Himikai. That she is, Inko said as she walked forwards and placed a hand gently on the girl's shoulder, Izuku smiling when Himiko didn't tense up. But we also spoke about her life before you started helping her. Oh, Izuku said, his face going blank. What did she tell you? Everything, Himiko muttered, sniffing slightly. Everything? Izuku asked as the girl nodded. Even the stuff I haven't told you yet. Oh. I think I'll be having a word with your principal about all this, Inko hummed. Is it safe to assume that he knows about her? Yeah, Izuku flinched as Himiko stiffened, looking at him in shock. He found out before I told him anything. He also wants to help. Ah really? The girl whimpered, fresh tears gathering in her eyes. Yeah, Izuku replied softly, pulling her closer to him, wrapping her in a tight hug. Himiko shook slightly as she pressed her face to his neck, letting out a quiet sob as she clung tightly to him. We all want to help you, Himikai. I promise. Midoriya, Tsuyu croaked as she and Okiko approached his desk. We were wondering about something. Hey ladies, Izuku grinned at them. What can I help you with? And call me Izuku. Your friend from before, Okiko said, the blonde girl that we had ice cream with. We wanted to know if she was okay. Oh, Himikai, she's fine, Izuku replied. In fact, she's doing a lot better. Sorry that I ran out after her like that, by the way. No problem, Kiro, Tsuyu hummed. She did run away quite quickly. Yeah, she's nervous around people usually, Izuku replied, looking away from them, and her quirk is difficult. You said it was a cool quirk before, right? Okiko asked, what is it? I'm not really at liberty to say, Izuku shrugged apologetically. Himikai doesn't like talking about it. Oh, the brunette gasped, sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. That's fine. Izuku laughed, but you two should probably get back to your seats. Class will be starting soon. Oh! Izuku and Nito burst out laughing as they watched the purple-haired teen roll around on the floor, his body contorted as he was wrapped up in the capture weapon. Oh, go to hell, he growled as he fought to untangle himself. It's a lot harder than it looks. If the two of you have time to laugh, you have time to train, Aizawa growled as he threw his own capture weapon at the two, both barely dodging out of the way. You'll need to be able to easily avoid attacks like that if you want to have any hope of being an underground hero. Yes, sensei, the two shouted as they continued to dodge the attacks, Aizawa moving almost lazily as he threw out the support item. After a moment, he winked at Hitoshi, the teen finally managing to get himself free, before the pro yanked on the capture weapon, easily snagging both Izuku and Nito, and slamming them into each other. Oh, they said together as they lay bound on the floor, Hitoshi snickering at them. Not so fun, is it? The teen laughed as he got up, rewrapping the capture weapon around his neck. No, Izuku hissed as the fabric unwrapped from around him, rubbing his head as he got to his feet. Hey sensei, is it okay if I bring my friend tomorrow? She said she would try coming to UA. You have a friend? Nito asked as he grabbed Izuku's offered hand, pulling himself to his feet, or at least one I don't know about. Oh, yeah, Izuku hummed as he looked at Nito apologetically. I kind of forgot to tell you. She's a special case. You're helping someone again, aren't you? The blonde asked flatly, staring at Izuku. Yeah, the teen replied, rubbing the back of his head. Sorry, I was going to tell you but dash. It's fine, Nito sighed. I don't expect you to tell me every little thing that happens in your life. Any luck with this mystery person so far? Oh yeah. Himikai is doing really well. She's gotten used to my mom, so she's a lot more comfortable around adults now and dash. Around your mom? Nito sighed. Izuku, you didn't let another homeless person sleep on your couch, did you? No. Nito nodded. She's been sleeping in my bed. 𝐒𝐫𝐽𝐾, the blonde shouted as he chopped the green-haired teen on the head. What? I've been taking the couch. He cried as Nito continued to hit him. Are they always like this? Hitoshi asked as he sidled up to Aizawa. Yes, the man sighed, unfortunately. Hey bro, Kirishima said to Izuku as they undressed in the changing rooms, you smell different today. Really? Denki called as he stepped closer to them, sniffing at Izuku. Dude, you do. It's all like, flowery. I do. Izuku hummed as he sniffed at himself. Guess Himikai's perfume is rubbing off on me. The room shouted, all the boys except a certain blonde turning to stare at him. Wait, do you have a girlfriend? Zero asked, what's she like? A girlfriend? Shoto muttered. She is probably not as magnifique as I. Come on, guys, Rikido said, we shouldn't pry. I don't, Izuku replied, looking around the room. Himikai is a friend that's staying over at my place right now. Oh, Shoto said, that's good. That she's staying at my place, or that she isn't my girlfriend. Izuku chuckled as he watched the stoic teen. Yes, Shoto replied, Izuku blinking in surprise for a moment. Come now, everyone. Tenya shouted over the noise, we must hurry and change, otherwise we will be late for basic heroics. Summer vacation is soon, Aizawa grumbled as he looked at the class roster, the students freezing as they all stared at him in anticipation. Of course it would be entirely illogical to give you all a full month off. Wait, don't tell me, Denny gasped. You'll be doing a summer training camp in the woods, the teacher stated as the class erupted into cheers. Truth or dare? Fireworks. Curry, the students called happily. However, Aizawa muttered, the class falling silent as he activated his quirk, anyone who fails the end-of-term exams will be having remedial classes here at UA. Let's do our best, guys. Kirishima roared as the rest of the class talked excitedly. So, Midori, Mina hummed as she sat beside him. Most of the class gathered in the viewing booth as they watched the other team do the exercise. How have you been? Good, Izuku replied, scribbling in his notebook as he looked up at the screens. Any big changes in your life recently? Not really. Mina pouted slightly as she looked at the boy, Izuku all but ignoring her as he wrote in his notebook. You smell really good today, she hummed, leaning in a little closer to him. Thanks, Izuku replied. Is it a new cologne? Deodorant? She asked, her shoulder pressing against his as she glanced down into the notebook. Nope. Well then, what is I dash? She was cut off as the hand landed heavily on her shoulder, pulling her firmly away from Izuku, the girl looking up in surprise at the heterochromatic eyes of Shoto. You were getting too close, the two-tone teen muttered, his face as placid as ever. Or, Shoto, Izuku laughed, smiling up at the boy, I didn't peg you as the jealous type. Jealous? He asked. Nedzu chuckled to himself. It hadn't been hard to gather all the information he needed. In fact, it had been almost insultingly easy, the lawyers of the Toga family barely doing anything to cover up the reports of abuse. Now all he needed was the final piece, and he would have everything he would need to systematically destroy them until they were little more than a footnote of a footnote. The only problem was how to get to that piece, even when the answer was, quite literally, standing in front of him. No, Izuku, Midoriya said, I won't bring Himiko here until she's ready. I understand your concern for your friend, Midoriya-san, but the sooner we dash, the chimera started. No, Izuku cut him off, making the principal blink, I already told you what's going to happen. And I said that I understand, Midoriya-san, Nedzu repeated, smiling gently as he sipped his tea, but I would hate for the younger Toga sibling to face a similar fate to young Himiko. Ojoko, Izuku hummed, looking away. So, Himiko has told you about her? Nedzu asked, watching the teen's eyes as he spoke. Yes, she did, Izuku sighed, looking back at the chimera, she told me a lot about her life. Her sister, her friends, her parents. And the things they did to her. I'm sure that must have been disturbing for you, the principal said, the teen nodding. I apologize that you had to hear that. Am I correct to assume that it was your mother that sent that highly detailed email of the, quite frankly, atrocities the young lady was put through? Yes sir, Izuku mumbled, sorry, she was very insistent. That is quite all right, young man, Nedzu chuckled, it was very useful in assisting me find the official reports. Though I must say, I was amazed that so little had been reported if what she has told you is true. Rich people, Izuku shrugged, they like to hide stuff. Like Endeavor. Ah yes, the case of young Todoroki, Nedzu hummed. Suffice to say, I have a detailed folder on that matter as well. All I need is for someone to officially report the matter for us to begin the investigation. Just like with Himiko-san. Can I ask you a question, sir? Go ahead, Midoriya-san. Why are you trying so hard? It's not just for Himiko or Shoto, otherwise you'd have gone after Endeavor almost as soon as Shoto walked through the gates, Izuku hummed, so why are you so interested now? Well, young man, there's quite a simple answer to that question, Nedzu replied, you showed me the error of my ways. I did. Yes, in your fight against Bakugo-san, Nedzu noticed the way the teen flinched at the mention of the fight, noting that down in the back of his mind for later, I came to realize that perhaps the way I had been going about things had been wrong. The great Nedzu, principal of UA and well-known intelligence hero, wrong. Izuku chuckled, well, that's something I never thought I'd ever hear. Anyone can be wrong, young man, Nedzu chuckled back, especially when they don't have all the facts. Now, there is something else I want to ask you. Yes, sir. How are your extra studies with Aizawa-san going? You're distracted. The words made the teen flinch slightly, turning to glare at the older man standing opposite him. No, I'm not, Shoto replied as he slid into a combat stance. Tell me again why you didn't accept my internship offer, Shoto. Endeavor growled, glaring at his son. I wanted to learn about paperwork. Don't lie to me, the man yelled, Shoto flinching back again as Endeavor's flame surged. Why didn't you come to me? You finally started using your fire. You needed to learn how to use it. To what? Shoto muttered, burn all the bad guys. I can already do that. What was that? Endeavor hissed, stepping closer to his son, don't you dare talk back to me, Shoto. You are mine. My son. My masterpiece. You will do as you are told and dash. Shut up. Enji Todoroki stood stunned for a moment, staring at the teen standing opposite him, the defiance burning in his eyes. I don't belong to anyone except myself, Midoriya said that, Shoto growled. Midoriya. That brat with the copy quirk. Endeavor growled, the one that tricked you into losing. You mean the one who got me to use my flames? Shoto shot back, the one who did what you couldn't. The one who has been the first real friend I've ever had. The two glared at each other angrily, before Shoto turned away, walking towards the door. I'm done training for today. No, you are not. Enji roared, stomping forwards, you will not leave this room until you can show that you are able to use your fire appropriately. Like this. Shoto hummed as he held up his left hand, his palm igniting as the flames coalesced into a small ball, Enji stopping dead as he stared at it. Midoriya has been teaching me all I need to know about my quirk. I don't need you anymore. The door slammed shut behind him as Shoto left, his heart beating in his chest as he heard his father give a shout of rage behind him, starting to throw objects around the room. He took a deep breath, letting it out slowly as he headed to his bedroom, closing the door quietly behind him. Then he smiled. Operation Snoop into Midori's love life is go. Mina whispered as she dragged the two girls behind her, looking at each other as the pink-skinned girl pulled them to the corner of the building. Are you sure this is a good idea, Mina? Toru asked as they peeked around the building to watch the green-haired teen that was their target. I mean, Yamomo was kind of right. It is his private life. Aren't you curious though? Mina giggled, what kind of girl does Midori like? Is she cute? Is she smart? Are they dash? Why am I even here? Gyro interrupted, shaking her hand free from Mina's grasp as she leaned against the wall. I have no interest in spying on anyone. Least of all Midoriya. Izuku shirtless. Mina grinned as the punk girl's ears suddenly went bright red. You like him just as much as the rest of us, Gyro. Can't you just ask him? Gyro muttered as Mina continued to grin at her. Where's the fun in that? Mina laughed. Wait, as the rest of us. Toru asked, looking at Mina, does that mean you also 𝐿𝐿 him? Mina slapped a hand over the invisible girl's mouth as her cheeks turned purple, coughing slightly. Be quiet or he'll hear us, the acid Quirk user hissed, glancing back around the corner. We have to be sneaky about this. Then we've already failed at that, Gyro sighed, giving Mina an unimpressed look when she stared at 𝐭𝐽 in confusion. Did you forget about his quirk? Here. No. He can copy other quirks, Mina said. At a distance. Yeah, but only 10 meters. And he can sense quirks, Gyro continued, lifting an eyebrow as she watched Mina blink. About 1 kilometer around 𝐼𝐴𝐵, the pink-skinned girl trailed off. Oh, yep. The voice made the three of them jump. I noticed you three following me about 20 minutes ago. What's up? Who's your girlfriend? Toru blurted as they all stared at the young man standing beside them. I don't have one. Izuku replied, a look of confusion on his face. But then why do you smell like perfume? Mina gasped. That would be Himikai, Izuku replied. Wait, you mean that girl from last week? Gyro asked, the blonde who ran away after whatever that was. Yeah, Izuku nodded as Mina stared at the two of them in shock. Gyro! You knew. What? The punk girl hissed at the shout, rubbing her ear. No. I didn't know it was her. She just came to greet my Doria last week and we went for ice cream. A date? Mina gasped, without me. No. Gyro shouted as her blush started to spread to her cheeks. It was just a few of us going for ice cream. Who? Where? What happened? Mina said rapid fire as she stepped towards the girl, her eyes burning with curiosity. What's this Himikai like? Sorry ladies, but I have something important I have to get to, Izuku suddenly said, checking his phone as he turned to walk away. Talk to you in class tomorrow. Are you sure you're okay with this? Izuku asked as they stood outside the gates to UA, Himiko fiddling with the lanyard around her neck. It was late in the evening, all of the students having already gone home, leaving the school grounds strangely silent and dark. No, the girl muttered, but, you promise they won't try to, you know. Yes, I promise, Izuku said softly, pulling her into a gentle hug. This is all to help you, Himikai, I promise. The two walked onto the campus, heading slowly through the silent grounds. They entered the main building, Izuku leading Himiko through the unfamiliar corridors and halls until they stood outside of a door, a small sign above it reading Recovery Girl. We're here, Izuku hummed, gently taking and squeezing Himiko's hand. We're going to go inside now, okay? Himiko nodded as Izuku slid the door open to the brightly lit room, leading her in. Hello, dears, the old voice said as Himiko looked down at the elderly woman. I take it you're Himiko Toga. Good. Let's get started on your checkup. Are you sure about this? The first figure grumbled as they stood outside the large warehouse in the Camino ward, staring at the strangely intimidating door. Shut up and get in there, his partner growled, shoving the other man forwards. They're offering too much to not take this job. Yeah, but this place gives me the creeps. I said shut up. The first man growled as he shoved the second into the warehouse, both stopping as they looked at the softly glowing vats that surrounded them in surprise. Gentlemen, the voice made both shiver as they looked at the seated man in the center of the room, his face hidden beneath an intimidating black mask. So good of you to join us. Now, I have a very special offer for both of you. Izuku startled awake at the scream, looking around in confusion as his eyes adjusted to the dark surroundings. He blinked as he saw the two figures standing just outside the doorway to the lounge, one clutching its leg as a bundle squirmed on the floor. He immediately felt panic rise inside him. How had he not heard them? How had he not felt them? He could barely sense anything from them now as it was. Who are you? He asked as he shot off of the couch, blinking the sleep from his eyes as he stared down the two figures. One said, did we get the wrong one? They never said that there would be two brats here. They. Izuku growled. Who do you work for? What do they want with us? Shut up and come quietly, kid, the first figure spat, stepping into the room as he spoke to his partner. Hey, quit fing around and help me grab this brat. Little 𝐿 stabbed me in the leg, the second shouted back, clutching their thigh as Izuku began to smell the first hints of BLD. Just grab the kid. He can't do SHT to us without quirks. So, you really don't have quirks anymore, Izuku muttered as he watched the other man step into the room, arms stretched out towards him, before the teen flexed his fingers, but that doesn't mean I don't. What? The man growled, before the heavy weight resting on the bookcase behind him shot off the shelf, slamming into the back of his head. He staggered forwards, swearing loudly as Izuku caught the weight, immediately darting forwards and swinging it up and into the man's face. There was a sickening crunch as his head shot back, Izuku feeling warm fluid splash against his face in the dark. He didn't think about what it was, just brought the weight back down on top of the stunned man's head, making him crumple to the floor, unconscious. What the F? The second man growled, as he limped forwards. Quit fighting and just come with us, you little 𝐿. I want my stronger quirk. F that, Izuku laughed back, the man freezing as he heard the sound of ripping fabric, glancing behind him to see the girl rise from the sack they'd shoved her in, ripping the tape off her mouth, yellow eyes glowing in the dark. Himikai, Mame. Himi dash. Ah. The man screamed as the blade sunk into his back, quickly being pulled out and stabbed into his arm, slicing through the tendon in his elbow as he tried to stagger away. He barely made it 2 steps before the dumbbell smashed into his temple, sending him careening into the wall, where he slid down to the floor, leaving a dark line against the paint. Are you okay? Izuku asked as soon as it was obvious that the man was no longer a threat, running to wrap Himiko in a tight hug. They didn't hurt you, did they? I'm okay, Izuku-kun, the girl muttered as she snuggled closer to him for a moment, before pushing away. I gotta go. The smell is too strong. Right, Izuku muttered as he pulled her towards the bathroom, suching on the light and grimacing as he caught sight of himself in the mirror. He had a streak of BLD up the front of his shirt, and a decent amount splashed across his face, now smudged from when he'd hugged Himiko. Get it off, the girl hissed as she struggled with the pajamas she was wearing, Izuku closing his eyes as he grabbed the hem of her shirt and pulled it over her head, stepping back towards the door as he bundled the still warm fabric in his hands. Have a bath, Himiko, he said as he turned away, stepping out the door and closing it behind him. We'll take care of everything else. Izuku. The teen froze at the sound of his mother's voice, blinking as the hall light swayed on, the woman looking at him from her bedroom doorway, the worry obvious on her face. Oh my gods. Are you okay? I've already called the police, but are you hurt? No, the teen breathed, pulling his own shirt off and wiping his face with it. It's not my BLD. I need to call UA. Now. Here. UA. But why? Can't it wait until after the police get here? Inko asked, walking quickly up to her son, and pulling him into a hug. Izuku, what's going on? I'm not sure, the teen muttered softly as he hugged the woman back, but it's not good. This is very worrying, Nedzu said, a frown on his face as he read over the report. I would say that is an understatement, Nedzu, Toshinori hummed as he watched the chimera. Those men, they didn't have quirks. But they were not born quirkless, Nedzu finished, nodding as he placed the report down on his desk. As I said, this is very worrying. So, he really is still alive, Toshinori sighed, sitting back in his chair as he stared at the ceiling. We suspected it with the Nomu, but this only solidifies it. That it does, Nedzu hummed as he began typing on his computer, Toshinori glancing at him and freezing. It was often difficult to tell the expression on the principal's animal face, but right now it was clear as day. His lips were drawn tightly back, his fang-like teeth exposed as his eyes burned with an anger that Toshinori had never seen in him before. His fingers danced over the keys as he worked, his face locked in the grimace of rage as it was illuminated by the screen. Nedzu. Toshinori said hesitantly, are you okay? No, the chimera growled, a true animalistic growl. They went after one of my students, Yagi-san. That is unforgivable, no matter who they are. Toshinori could only nod as he watched the principal furiously work, his expression not changing the entire time. Izuku. The teen could barely make it 2 steps into the waiting room before Natori wrapped his arms around him, pulling him into a tight hug. Are you okay? You weren't injured, were you? No, Natori-sensei, Izuku said as Nito slipped past them, snickering, "I'm fine." "That's good," the man sighed in relief, before giving the two of them a wide grin. "I would hate to lose either of my research subjects." "Nay, Tori-sensei," the two teens ummed, before laughing loudly, Nito continuing, "You know we're so much more than that." "That you are," the man laughed along with them. "Well, shall we get on with your sessions? I'm interested to hear about your time at UA." "Sure thing," Izuku said. "Also, we have to talk to you about that. UA is opening dorms on campus, and well, we won't be able to come here so easily anymore," Nito finished. "I'm sure Izuku will fill you in on all the details during his session, but just so you know." "Ah, I see," Natori hummed, nodding as he walked towards the door that led to his office. "All right, you can fill me in, Izuku." "Sure thing, Natori-sensei." "Welcome to Heights Alliance," Aizawa grumbled as he stood in front of the massive building. "This will be your new dorm for the remainder of your time at UA." "So fancy." Okiko gasped as she stared at the structure. "So cool." Mina cheered as she hopped up and down. "So manly." Kirishima added as he grinned at his friend. "This will certainly be a new learning experience for all of us," Momo hummed as she looked at Ida, who gave a sharp nod, Bakugo scowling behind him. "You have all been assigned rooms. The allocations are on the notice board inside," Aizawa growled, rubbing his eyes tiredly. "The furniture and luggage you sent earlier this week is already in your rooms. If you have any other problems, take them to the dorm mother." "Dorm mother?" Ida asked. "Who might that be?" "Hey guys." The excited shout came from the door as Izuku ran out to meet them, a frilly apron with cute pictures of bunnies printed on it tied around him and a coy smile on his lips. "You're finally all here. Do you want dinner, a bath, or maybe even Nami?" "You, Mina," Kirishima and Okiko muttered as they stared at the teen in surprise, Izuku blinking back at them. "Her name is Inko Midoriya," Aizawa sighed, running a hand down his face in exasperation, "and she is Midoriya's mother." "Wait," Bakugo gasped, "Auntie Inko is the Fing dorm mother." "Yeah." Izuku grinned as the blonde scowled at him, before turning away. Everyone blinked as they heard the almost inaudible whisper of Fing Sweet. "Come on," Izuku called. "I know where everyone's rooms are. Let me show you." "Woo. I'm exhausted." Kirishima huffed as he fell down onto the large couch in the common room, Izuku laughing beside him. "That was hard work." "Shut your mouth, he's stupid hair." Bakugo barked. "It's your own fault for having so much seer stuff." "Whoa, is Bakugo actually censoring himself?" Kirishima gasped, looking at Izuku, and the green-haired teen nodded. "Yeah, well, my mom is the dorm mother," Izuku chuckled, looking over at Bakugo as the blonde pouted. "She doesn't appreciate unnecessary foul language." "Oh," Kirishima hummed, trying to imagine the type of person that could make Bakugo not swear. He was interrupted when Mina, Okiko, and Momo joined them, the pink-skinned girl calling out excitedly. "Hey guys! You also finished," she said, grinning as she hopped over the back of the couch, slipping in between Izuku and Kirishima. "Yeah," the redhead nodded as he grinned, "and get this. Bakugo isn't swearing as much." "What?" she gasped, staring at the blonde in shock. "Why?" "Shut your effing mouth, Raccoon Eyes," he barked, jumping when a calm voice called from the nearby kitchen. "Katsuki, it's rude to not address people by their names." The room turned to look as the short, slender woman walked out, brushing a lock of dark green hair out of her face as she smiled happily at them. "Hello, and nice to meet you all. I am Inko Midoriya, your new dorm mother." "Ah!" Mina cried as she jumped off the sofa, rushing over to the woman and giving her a tight hug. "Midori, your mom is so cute." "Thanks." Izuku laughed. "I get it from her." "Ashido. That is highly inappropriate behavior to have towards the adult in charge of us," Ida said loudly as he chopped his arm through the air. "Release her at once." "Oh, don't be so stiff, Tenya-san." Inko laughed. "It's quite alright, I am a dorm mother after all. I expect you to treat me like your own. Except you, Katsuki, you can treat me like normal." The room turned to look at Bakugo as the teen blushed slightly, hiding his face. "Well, now that everyone is here, I've made some dinner for you all." Inko hummed happily, It's Katsuden, so I hope you like it. Thanks, Mom. Izuku shouted as he rushed by her into the kitchen, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek. And don't worry, Katsuki, the woman whispered to the blonde as he walked past her, I made yours extra spicy. Oh, he muttered, thanks, Auntie Inko. Himiko fidgeted in her seat, looking around the room at the other teenagers sitting in the circle of chairs. Hello, and welcome back to our latest session of the BLD Quirk support group, the large muscular man dressed in a form-fitting red bodysuit said, ruffling his silver hair. As I'm sure you've all noticed, we have a new member today. This is Himiko Toga, and she'll be joining us from now on. Hi. Hello. Welcome. The various students called as Himiko looked away. Well, I think it's best that we all introduce ourselves, the man said, and, if you're comfortable, explain what your quirk has to do with BLD. I'll go first. I'm the BLD hero, Vlad King. I can control my own BLD, including hardening it. The rest of the group started to introduce themselves, some explaining their quirks, some not. Himiko wasn't really paying attention. I'm Peepee Vespa, the next student said, the girl's bat-like ears twitching as she smiled kindly at Himiko, her eyes completely black and her nose slightly upturned. My quirk is called Batmorph. I basically have all the powers of most species of microbat. I need to drink BLD in order to gain certain nutrients I can't get otherwise. Himiko started, staring at the girl in surprise. Toga-san. Himiko jumped as she realized that she was the only person who hadn't spoken yet, looking at Vlad King nervously. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. And no, Izuku-kun said it would be good for me, the blonde muttered, clearing her throat slightly as she looked at the others in the group. My name is Himiko Toga, and my quirk is called Transform. The capture weapon snapped around Izuku's wrist, yanking him forwards as he tried to dodge. Nito swung a punch, their opponent ducking under the swing as he rolled forwards, throwing the scarf-like support item out behind him. Nito shrieked as his foot was caught, throwing him to the ground, Izuku jumping to his feet and trying to tackle their assailant. The boys stepped to the side, just as Izuku swung his foot up, his knee catching the other teen in the side, Shinso gasping as he was thrown to the ground. Oh, he groaned as he tried to get up, struggling as he realized that he'd gotten tangled up in his capture weapon. Better, Aizawa grumbled from the side of the clearing, walking up to the three. Your control has improved, but you're still mismanaging the weapon after using it. Right? Shinso sighed, lying back on the ground as he waited for the other two to help untangle him. Wow, you're getting really good with this thing, Izuku hummed as he yanked on one of the ends, sending Shinso rolling away from him. Maybe I should get one as well. It would get in the way of certain quirks, I'm sure, Nito hummed as he stopped Shinso with his foot, helping the other boy up as he swayed slightly. Best to stick to what we know. The capture weapon is a difficult support item to use, Aizawa growled as the grey cloth began to float around him. You have to train with it almost exclusively in order to have any hope of making it useful in combat. Ah, Izuku nodded. I guess I'll pass then. Wouldn't want to steal the family shtick either. I thought Eraserhead was one of your dads. Nito laughed. He is, but I can't get between a true father and son. Izuku chuckled back. We aren't related. Shinso and Aizawa groaned together as they rubbed the bridge of their noses, the other two just watching, before bursting out in laughter. Anyway, Aizawa sighed, that's it for tonight, get back to the dorms before curfew. Yes sir, the three teens shouted as they gathered their things and started walking out of the forest. Hey, Hitoshi, Nito, want to come around to the 1A dorms for supper? My mom is making udon. Your mother lives in the dorms? Shinso asked, looking at the green-haired teen in surprise. Why? Same reason the dorms got opened, Izuku grinned. Someone broke into our house and tried to kidnap me. Someone? You hero kids are insane, the purple-haired teen sighed. Whatever, I'm good. But udon? Izuku whined, and my mom's cooking is great. It really is, Nito hummed. You should come, you'll get to meet some of your future classmates as well. I'm not in this to make friends, Shinso growled, walking slightly faster, and I have food in my dorm. Too late. Izuku called after him as the teen hurried down the path to his dorm. I was hoping to talk to him more. He'll come around, Nito laughed. You won't let him escape the grasps of your friendship. Not at all. Izuku grinned as they walked towards one as dorm. Hitoshi sighed as he looked at his meal. It was basically just rice with some sides and had been all he had been eating for the last week since the dorms had opened. His stomach growled slightly as he ate the food, wondering what Midoriya and Monoma were doing at that moment. Probably eating udon. His stomach growled again. I don't care about them, he sighed, looking around the empty room. He was the only person from his class in the 1C dorms, leaving the massive building feeling empty and lonely, though he was hardly complaining. Hitoshi liked his privacy, being a severe introvert, but it still felt strange to be completely alone. He jumped as his phone buzzed, blinking as he pulled it out, looking at the message. You're still welcome to join us. Izuku. The attached image showed a table full of people, the purple-haired teen recognizing several of the Class A and B students eating noodles happily. He even spotted a pair of students he didn't recognize, a girl with bat-like ears sitting beside another with bright pink dreadlocks who seemed more interested in the papers around her than the food in front of her. How did you get my number? He watched as the message sent, jumping again at the almost instant reply. I have my ways. Come over and I'll tell you. Hitoshi sighed as he got up from the table, carrying his plates to the sink and washing them, before putting them away. He glanced at the cell phone on the table again, before walking over and picking it up. He paused as he typed out his reply, staring at the words for a moment, before deleting them and simply responding no. Will Hitoshi Shinso please report to the support department? The announcement chimed as Hitoshi looked up in surprise, the rest of his class turning to stare at him. Dude, Lucky, the boy who sat next to him whispered, grinning at Shinso as the teen got up from his chair. Whatever, he mumbled as he walked out of the room, the rest of the class giving him a cheer as he left. Hitoshi walked slowly, not sure why he was being told to report to the support department, and why now of all times. It was his class's free period, so that made sense, but he'd only been training for a little over a month. There was no way that they were going to let him have a costume so soon. Was there? My Hatsune. The pair of shouts made him stop as he stared at the thick metal door that was embedded in the wall, blinking as he turned to the room that had smoke pouring out of it, a stylized sign reading Support Department above it. He watched as several students stumbled out, coughing and brushing soot and dirt off of themselves, before a familiar face appeared, bright pink dreadlocks covered in grease and soot as she pulled up her steampunk-styled goggles, laughing loudly. Ha ha ha! Failure is the mother of invention. She shouted as Powerloader and the girl with bat-like ears walked out of the room behind her. You caused another explosion, Powerloader growled, you're banned from the workshop for the rest of the day. What? But my babies. The girl, who Hitoshi figured was probably the rumored crazy inventor Hatsune, cried. No, Powerloader sighed, out. Go eat something and sleep. I'll handle it, sensei, the Batgirl sighed, come on time to take care of yourself. But babies. Hitoshi said, making all three of their heads snap towards him, Hatsune's face suddenly lighting up. You're brainwashing Kuan, the pink-haired teen shouted, grabbing him and trying to drag him into the still smoking room. Number 1 customer has told me about you. Your quirk is really interesting. He has. Wait, who? Shinso muttered, scowling slightly as Powerloader suddenly blocked their path. Hatsune, I said you're banned for the rest of the day. But I have to show brainwashing Kuan his new baby. My new what? Hitoshi asked, looking between the two in confusion. Vesper and I can do that, go eat something. But sensei. I said no. Come on, they'll be at it for a while, the bat-eared girl sighed as she pulled Hitoshi past them and into the room, most of the smoke having cleared, the purple-haired teen blinking as he saw the large blast mark against the far wall. Yeah, that was my. She seems dangerous, Shinso muttered under his breath, jumping when the girl answered. Not really, just eccentric. She's really good at inventing, but not much else. Makes being her lab partner interesting, to say the least. So, why am I here? Shinso asked as he was led across the room, looking at all the strange inventions and objects scattered around. I haven't submitted a design for a costume yet. And we don't have one, but Midoriya was able to give us enough information on your quirk to make you a piece of support gear. or a prototype at least. Midoriya. ♀♀ started as the girl stopped at a shelf, pulling a black case off of it and turning around, snapping the latches open with practiced ease. Yeah, he's been suggesting support gear for pretty much everyone in the hero course and some others as well, the girl sighed. It's super interesting and helpful, but he also encourages my a bit too much. Ah, Hitoshi muttered as she opened the case, staring at the strange mask inside. It was matte black with some silver highlights and looked almost like a muzzle, just more angular. There were a pair of small dials on each side of it, and it looked like it was held in place using a sturdy material scarf. We designed it specifically to allow you to use your capture weapon without it getting tangled, the girl explained. Say hello to your new artificial vocal cords. Artificial vocal cords. ♀♀ breathed as he gingerly picked up the object. What? How does it work? Simple, you put it on, and then, using a number of special vibrating plates inside and the dials, you will be able to alter the way your voice sounds without affecting your quirk. Here. How do you know that my quirk doesn't work through electronic speakers? Midoriya's suggestion again, the girl said. He claims that most vocal trigger-activated quirks won't work through speakers or radios. And I'm inclined to trust him. Why? Why not? The girl grinned at him, showing off a pair of small fangs in her mouth. Anyway, put it on, I'll help you calibrate it. Okay, Hitoshi breathed as he looked at the object in his hands again, excitement bubbling up inside him. Hey ♀♀. Hitoshi jumped at the shout, having been lost in thought as he'd stared off into the distance. He looked over at the group of students standing beside his desk, all of them smiling at him. What? He sighed. You're looking really good lately, one of the girls said, like, you're getting buff. Must be all that extra hero training you're getting. One of the boys laughed. You look great, dude. Whatever, Hitoshi muttered as he looked away, trying to hide the slight blush on his face. It's nothing. It's not nothing, man, another boy said. You're going to be a hero student. That's awesome. There's no guarantee, he replied. I'm just trying to. No way, another girl cheered. You got to the second round of the sports festival tournament. And you're getting special training. You'll definitely be hero student next year. Why are you guys so sure? Aren't you scared of me? Hitoshi growled, glaring at them, blinking when they all looked at each other and laughed. Scared of you? Why would we be? Because your quirk is scary. But you're going to be a hero. Dude, you're literally already the hero of General Ed. I'm, what? Hitoshi muttered as he stared at them in shock. Yeah, Hitoshi ♀♀, the hero of General Ed. Several of the students cheered. Hitoshi could feel the blush burning at his cheeks and the tears welling in his eyes, the teen blinking them away as he turned back to the wall. Whatever, he muttered, hiding his grin. Hey, we're having fried chicken tonight. Izuku said excitedly as the three boys walked back to their dorms. You want to join us, Hitoshi? Hitoshi paused, letting out a low sigh as he looked at the grinning teen. It's futile to resist, Monoma said softly. He will befriend you. Oh, shut up, then. Izuku laughed. I'm not that bad. Maybe you are, Hitoshi muttered, making the two other teens jump as they looked at him, wide grins forming on their faces. So, does that mean? Yeah, I'll come over, Hitoshi sighed, running a hand over his face. I might as well meet my potential future classmates. Hi Chan. ♀♀ sighed as he walked into the dorm. It had been barely 3 days since he had started joining the hero students for meals, and yet the green-haired teen had already decided that this was enough of a reason to give him a ridiculous nickname. He looked past Izuku, inspecting the group of Class A and B students already gathered around the table, various books scattered across its surface as Yorozu stood at the head, seemingly tutoring them. Am I interrupting? He asked, Izuku shaking his head as he led the purple-haired teen towards the table. Nope, we were just finishing up, he said. Come on, you can help set the table. The teen just nodded as he silently followed Izuku, glancing over at the table as they passed. Both Mina and Kirishima faced down on it as what looked like steam slowly rose from their heads. He chuckled quietly to himself as he walked into the kitchen, greeting Inko as Izuku handed him a stack of plates. And how are you, ♀♀san? the woman asked as she bustled around the kitchen. Studying for your upcoming exams, I hope. Yeah, he muttered, the woman smiling kindly at him. That's good to hear, she hummed. We're having fish tonight, it's good for your brain. Thanks, he replied, following Izuku out of the room as they walked over to the table, the rest of the students already clearing the books away. I think that went well. Momo beamed as she stood at the head of the table, hands on her hips as she gave a satisfied sigh. I think you'll all be able to at least pass at this point. My brain is numb, Setsuna hummed as she put a stack of books to the side. Is it normal to be able to feel your brain? 'Cause I can't. It is imperative that we be properly prepared for these exams. Ida called as he took some of the plates from Hitoshi, laying them out on the table. They are just as important as the practical. Oh yeah, Okiko hummed. I wonder what those'll be like. Oh, I know an upperclassman, Kendo chuckled as she stretched her back. They told me that the practical exam for first years are almost always fights against robots. You mean like in entrance exams? Pony chimed happily in her broken Japanese as she hopped up. This be easy then. Shut your effing mouth, horns. Bakugo spat as he appeared from the stairwell, not having joined in their study group. This is you, nothing is easy. Or, are you saying you might struggle, Kaken? Nito chuckled, the blonde glaring at him. Of course not. I'll ace all the exams they can throw at us. And don't call me that, Xerox. Hitoshi just watched as they two blondes began throwing shade at each other, letting out a quiet sigh as he glanced over at the other quiet boy beside him. Rin gave him a tired smile, shrugging his shoulders as he sat back at the table. Number 1 customer. I have new babies to show you. The pink-haired support student yelled as she burst through the door, arms laden with rolls of paper, before a hand grabbed the back of her collar. Eat first, the bat-like girl sighed as she half-dragged the babbling girl towards the table, then you can talk about your inventions. But babies. The rest of the students laughed at their antics, apparently already used to Mai's eccentricities. Hitoshi just sighed as he slipped into his seat between Pipi and Izuku. Now that everyone's here, Inko's voice called from the kitchen as she walked out, arms covered in plates as she set them down on the table. It's time for dinner. I hope you all enjoy. Thanks, Thm. Izuku said, standing to give her a quick kiss on the cheek as she passed by him. The students quickly fell silent as they began to dish up and eat, only chatting quietly. Inko smiled as she watched them, the 15 students clearly enjoying the meal. Even Mai was quiet as she stuffed food into her mouth. She turned silently and headed back into the kitchen, picking up the 2 plates she'd left there as she headed towards the door to her apartment. Is Himiko not eating with us again? The voice almost surprised her, Inko turning to look at Pipi as the Batgirl stood with her own plate. No, she says she's still not comfortable around crowds. Inko smiled softly as she spoke, but the support student could see the sadness in her eyes. I'm sure she'll join you all soon enough. Do you mind if I join the 2 of you then? Pipi asked. I wanted to talk to her about something. Inko blinked in surprise, before a genuine smile crossed her lips. Of course, sweetheart. I'm sure Himiko will be overjoyed. So, Toru hummed as she leaned over Mina's desk. What's it like staying in the dorms? Oh, it's great, the pink-skinned girl laughed. We have a bunch of fun, and Inko-san's food is amazing. Though Yomomo's tutoring sessions can get a little intense. Tutoring? Denki blinked as he looked over at the 2. What for? The exams. Kiri said as he walked over to them. That next week. Next week, the blonde muttered, suddenly jumping up from his chair as he grabbed his head. I completely forgot to study. That is unforgivable. Ida gasped, stepping up and grabbing the boy by the shoulders. How could you forget something so important? Between the internships and hero training it just slipped my mind, Denki said as Ida shook him. I didn't mean to. Then we must fix this immediately, the blue-haired boy barked, turning sharply to look at Momo. Yorozu, are you prepared to have extra students to tutor? Emmy, the girl gasped as she looked up from the book she was reading. Why? Well, you do already tutor everyone at the dorms, except Bakugo, Okiko said. I mean, even Tokuji-san says you're smarter than her, and she's also a recommendation student. Wait. You're studying with the Class B students? Kero. Tsuyu blinked as she looked up. What's that like? It's fine. Okiko hummed, they're all really nice. Well, Nito can be a bit extra. I think that's what Izuku said. Ooh, you're calling him Izuku now. Toru chuckled as she sidled up to the brunette, Okiko blushing as she waved her hands frantically. It's just 'cause I'm getting more familiar with him, she spluttered. We're living under the same roof after all. That certainly doesn't help your case, Gyro chuckled quietly as she looked around. Where is Midori, anyway? The class fell silent as they looked at the empty desk, Katsuki scowling at them from his own seat. What the F are you thing looking at me like that thing for? He growled. Has Bakugo gotten worse with his swearing lately? Rikido muttered as they looked at the blonde. Oh, Inko-san doesn't like swearing, so he has to get it all out when he's not in the dorm. Kirishima laughed. F you too, you shitty-haired F-nugget. The blonde spat. See. The class laughed as Bakugo leapt out of his seat and stormed over to the redhead, screaming bloody murder as he went. I'm sure it will be fine, Momo said, though we'll have to make sure to inform Inko-san that there may be more people over for dinner. One moment, Fumikage hummed, who is this Inko-san you have been talking about? Oh, she's Midori's mom. Mina said excitedly, and she's so nice. Midoriya's mom is staying at the dorms. Mesharao asked, why? Because that thing Quirk stealing F almost got Thing kidnapped, and he dragged Auntie Inko into his bullshit. Bakugo growled as he stomped back to his seat. That's why they Thing opened the goddamn dorms to Thing begin with. Wait, Midori almost got kidnapped. The class shouted in shock. What happened? Were they okay? I don't know. Bakugo yelled back, F him. I didn't know you felt that way, Kaken. Izuku laughed from the door, the rest of the class turning to look at him in surprise. Sorry I'm late, had to help my mom with something. Is it to do with the mysterious Himikai? Mina giggled, grinning at him. When are we going to meet her? Himikai, Toru asked, is that the girl Mina thinks you're dating? Does she also stay at the dorms? Yeah, Izuku said as he walked to his desk. She's been staying with us for a while, so she moved in to help my mom with her dorm mother duties. Though we have yet to see her, Momo hummed, apparently she is not comfortable around crowds. Something like that, Izuku hummed as he headed towards his seat. You will have time for gossip later, the familiar voice grumbled as their homeroom teacher walked through the door, scowling at them. Now get to your seats. The men glanced at each other as they sat around the bar, most sipping on drinks as the mist-like bartender quietly cleaned a glass. Almost all of them had some sort of heteromorphic or animal-based mutation, at least visibly. Some had started talking quietly as they waited for the supposed ringleader to make his appearance and were starting to get antsy. They didn't dare fight though. The last couple of guys who had tried having vanished moments after when the bartender had engulfed them in his mist-like body. They were all here for the same simple reason, the frankly ludicrous amount of money they were being offered for a simple kidnapping job, and didn't see the point in messing that up. Yeah sure, yeah, in the right place, kid, a towering man chuckled from the bar, his skin shimmering like diamond as he stared at the black-haired man leaning against the far wall. They said this was after mutant types. Unless them scars is your quirk. F off, the young man muttered, I know why I'm here. So does I, the diamond-skinned cackled, but I just don't want yeah to go crying out of here when they's reject yeah. Like they'd accept some 2-bit villain like you. The F.U. say ta-em, the diamond-skinned man roared as he jumped up from his stool, glaring at the scarred man. I'll crush your pretty little head. He stepped forwards, his skin shimmering as the other man raised a hand, blue flames starting to lick across his skin. They both blinked when the shroud of blackish fog shot between them, both glancing over to the bar. Enough, the baritone voice of the bartender, the leader is here. The two stepped back as the mist receded back into the bartender, revealing the slender, pale-haired man. You, he muttered, pointing at the black-haired man, before his finger shot towards the only other non-mutant in the room, a towering man with a thick scar over the left side of his face, his eye replaced with an intimidating fake. And you. F off. We said only mutants. Right, the scarred man growled as he stepped forwards, the muscular man also getting up from his seat. But you don't know who I am or what I can dash. "I told you to F off," the pale-haired villain spat, his red eyes boring into the man. "Kurogiri, get rid of them." "As you wish, Tomura Shigaraki," the bartender hummed, neither of them able to respond as the black mist engulfed the room. The rest of the villains hissed, tensing slightly, before the mist reformed into the bartender, his suit unruffled as he continued cleaning the glass. "I don't need party members that'll be able to be turned against me," Shigaraki muttered, before turning to the rest of the room. "You lot, you're hired. Jiran will contact you when we're ready to move out." "That easy," the lizard-like man muttered as he scratched at the mask on his face, still not used to the feeling just yet. "What's the catch?" "The catch?" Shigaraki growled, making the man tense as he glared at him. "You'll all be meeting with an associate first. We need to take some measurements for your gear. And other things." "Gear," the villains in the bar muttered, looking at each other in confusion. Izuku hunched over the notebook, eyes scanning the pages ferociously as he sat at the desk in his dorm room. After a moment, he flopped back in his chair, letting out a tired sigh. He had been at this for hours, and he was exhausted. But he had to make sure that what had happened wasn't a fluke. If it wasn't, then he had a whole new aspect of his quirk to train. To help him save. And he was going to use it. He closed his eyes, reaching inside himself and pulling on the familiar light that lay within, the smell of burnt sugar wafting to his nose a moment later.